Chapter 4:13. The Crepe Myrtle Pure Land became more and more lively. The famous clans and peak forces in the universe had all sent some young geniuses, and almost all of them were in the quasi-Dao realm. Su Yen even discovered that many young people were about to enter the great Dao realm, which surprised him. This meant that the top geniuses of the various clans had all come. Could it be that they had come for some treasure land, or was the divine spiritual mountain range really about to open? I'm accumulating. The hurdle of the great Dao realm is not difficult for me. Someone's words were shocking. That was the hurdle of the great Dao realm. These people were more or less familiar with each other, and they gathered together to chat. Su Yen was not curious about their words. In the past, Su Dalong had told Su Yen not to be in a hurry to enter the great Dao realm. This was the most important mystery realm for cultivation. There were also differences in comprehension. The more profound one's comprehension was, the higher one's achievements in the great Dao realm would be in the future. Some cultivators would stay in the quasi-Dao realm for dozens of years, or even hundreds of years. When they were about to break through, they would even choose a dojo. The best choice was definitely to become a paragon of the star domain and obtain the recognition of the star domain's great Dao imprint. Take the 10 strongest ancient planets as an example. Their paragons were the strongest because the help the star domain's great Dao gave them was too terrifying. It was equivalent to comprehending a part of the universe's Dao. This was how terrifying the Dao Ascension ceremony was. If one could not obtain this opportunity, then they would choose a higher-rank star domain or obtain a precious great Dao imprint, such as the Divine King's imprint or the God Spirit's imprint. Of course, the most shocking thing was the imprint of a major figure. Once one obtained this imprint, it was rumored that they would not be inferior to the strongest paragon of the star domain. They might even be on par with them. In short, even if someone could cross the hurdle of comprehension, they would not be in a hurry. They would choose a supreme dojo to break through and merge with the great Dao of heaven and earth. Now, a large number of quasi-Dao cultivators had gathered in the Crepe Myrtle Pure Land. Su Yen guessed that they were probably here for the divine spiritual mountain range. After all, the divine spiritual mountain range was known as the dojo of the god. If the divine spiritual mountain range could really be opened, the disciples of the various clans would probably head there and choose to achieve Dao there. They're all here. This place was in an uproar, because the great figures who were fighting outside had entered the purple myrtle pure land. Su Yen even saw Zhu Wenxiong. As expected, even Vice-Sect Master Meng Feng wouldn't really fight against them. One after another, godly spirits arrived at the Z-Way Pure Land. The terrifying energy waves caused the entire place to feel heavy. None of the cultivators dared to breathe loudly. The aura of the deities came one after another, and the younger generation felt suffocated. Even King Flash and the others had to restrain their auras, not daring to cross the line. Deities were indeed deities. They were high and mighty, and they were truly world-shaking. Will the divine mountain range really open? Wu Heng and the others were very concerned about this matter. Although it was a bit sudden, the God Spirit Mountain that had been sealed for an entire universe epoch should have been opened by now, right? It's said that someone sold the information to the various peak forces. When they came to investigate, they bumped into each other. Only then did they realize that they had been tricked. Someone sold the information to the various peak forces. Who dares to do this? Have you found anything? There's not a single clue. According to what I know, it was a deity who personally sold the information. There's a huge force behind it. That's incredible. However, my clan passed down a message that the God Spirit Mountain Range might really open. They even asked us to prepare in advance. There were many discussions here. Their backgrounds were not small, but they were all speechless about the matter of tricking the various peak forces. They were really not afraid of the matter blowing up. If they were found out, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was equivalent to offending the various peak forces. Saintess, when will the ancient Tao rite open? Someone asked. Most of the cultivators were astonished. What kind of place was the ancient Tao rite? However, Zhu Yong and the others walked over. They all had shocking backgrounds, and they were very clear about the ancient Tao rite. Their goal this time was also the ancient Tao rite. What ancient Tao rite? Tai Gongji was astonished. He immediately transmitted his voice. Pay close attention. I've heard some secret news. There's a secret realm in the Ziwei Pure Land that is related to the Great Tao Mountain. Su Yan's pupils constricted. He was a bit shocked. That was one of the 9 great heavenly mountains, the Great Tao Mountain. The ancient Tao rite has a long history. It's strange that you don't know about it. A genius from the Yao domain explained, in the ancient era of the universe, the God Spirit mountain range was known as the Tao rite of the gods. The bipolar star was also known as the ancient star of life with great potential. However, this place is still under the jurisdiction of the Ziwei sect. It's even the origin of their second ancestral land. Some people say that the origin of the second ancestral land is related to the ancient Tao rite. The surrounding people were speechless. This was a great background. What kind of power was the Ziwei sect? The ancient Tao rite was related to their second ancestral land. This was a terrifying matter. To be known as the second ancestral land, its effects naturally surpassed the top Tao rite. How many of these Tao rites could be found in the entire universe? The ancient Tao rite is equivalent to a part of the God Spirit mountain range. Although the God Spirit mountain range is now a forbidden area, the ancient Tao rite is not. Rumor has it that this is a holy land for enlightenment. Only quasi-Tao realm cultivators can enter. As for those who have comprehended the great Tao, they can't obtain anything. The surrounding people discussed animatedly. Su Yan secretly inquired for information. With his identity, he could ask for many secrets. The ancient Tao rite could be said to be the most powerful treasure land of the Ziwei sect. Every time the ancient Tao rite appeared, all the great sects would rush over and send their most outstanding disciples in. After all, it was a part of the God Spirit mountain range. Who didn't want to enter and comprehend the great Tao? There were records of people who succeeded and went very far in the future. They all entered the domain of almighty beings. The words they left behind were related to the influence of the ancient Tao rite. From then on, the ancient Tao rite's fame spread far and wide. Even almighty beings came out. Although the probability wasn't high, it was enough to prove the value of the ancient Tao rite. The Ziwei sect was also forced to open it to the outside world. However, it only opened once every 10,000 years. A rare great Tao rite land that opened once in 1,000 years. Almighty beings had come out before, so its value was shocking. Zhu Yong and the others also came for the ancient Tao rite. It's true. It's this secret realm. Tai Gongji transmitted his voice excitedly. The ancient Tao rite that is related to the great Tao mountain. It's not surprising for almighty beings to come out. Rumor has it that the great Tao mountain recorded the most terrifying Tao fruits in the world. Although it's only a part of the great Tao mountain, its value is hard to measure. It's worth a trip. Moreover, the blood of the burial region flows in your body. You might get a great opportunity. Su Yan was moved. The third celestial mountain, the great Tao mountain. He really didn't know what he would encounter. With his identity, he wanted to enter the ancient Tao rite? The Ziwei sect probably wouldn't stop him. The ancient Tao rite wasn't open to all forces. Every time it opened, only a few cultivators would enter. It wouldn't exceed a few thousand. I wonder if the great forces will join hands to open the God Spirit mountain range? Will they give up their spots? They should. It's said that the God Spirit mountain range is a world of its own. The great forces can't use it all, right? Someone noticed that in the depths of the Ziwei sect's pure land, the experts of the great forces were having a discussion. They all wanted to fight for their rights. No one could monopolize such a place of fortune, and it might not even be limited to them. Even the great clans couldn't sit still. The Z-Way sect's Pure Land was bustling with noise and excitement. Clouds and mist were rolling, birds were chirping, flowers were fragrant, and the sound of zither was pleasant. The elders of the Z-Way sect walked over and warmly welcomed them. They set up a banquet with all kinds of precious spirit fruits, rare delicacies, and fine wines on the jade table. The younger generation were all talking about the God Spirit mountain range. The scene was very lively. There were also some young people walking towards Yun's seat with adoration and toasting to her. There sure are a lot of suitors, Su Yen murmured in his heart. The drunk Tai Dania had arrived. His bright golden body was in excellent condition. He seemed to be the legendary golden iron bull. People often paid attention to him, and there were even geniuses from the demon region who wanted to know Tai Dania's identity. Be careful of the woman being kidnapped. We should keep the goodies within the family. Tai Dania transmitted his voice. Now that the banquet was being held here, no one would pay attention to them. Who is that old man beside you? Su Yen transmitted his voice and asked. Damn it, just mentioning him makes me angry. Tai Baokai transmitted his voice and said angrily, This old bull insisted that I was his relative, the lost golden iron bull. Who am I? Who dares to be my senior? He is the golden iron bull? Su Yen was astonished and transmitted his voice. Where did that man run off to? He should be from the golden iron bull bloodline. Tai Baokai lowered his voice and transmitted his voice. Who knows where he ran off to? This race is a little special. I heard that they do not get along well with the demon region. I can't stay here for too long, and I don't know if that old bull will let me go. Do you have their bloodline in your body? Su Yen transmitted his voice and asked, How strong is that old man? It is not safe for us to stay here. Don't worry, if something happens, he will definitely protect me. Tai Baokai continued to transmit his voice. What did you experience in the Devil Fog domain? The way back. Su Yan's words almost made Tai Daniu fall to the ground. His breath reeked of alcohol and he was scared out of his wit. The way back? From the Devil Fog domain back to Earth? But this is very difficult. I don't have any coordinates. Where is Teacher Yuan? Su Yen asked. He is very safe. He is in seclusion in Dual Polarity City. Tai Baokai was shocked. What coordinates do you need? What is the situation with the Burial Realm bloodline? What did you encounter during this period of time? Tell me quickly. Su Yen did not say too much. He only stated that Earth was very important and must not be leaked out. Otherwise, it would cause a disaster. Tai Baokai was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. They were from the Burial Realm bloodline? This matter was too big. Once it was leaked out, they would definitely be hunted down all over the world. Motherf ****. Tai Baotsai's golden forehead was drenched in cold sweat. He wiped it with his hooves and transmitted his voice. I only know that Earth is the Empress progenitor, but I didn't expect Earth to be related to the Burial Realm bloodline. This matter is too big. You should quickly contact Yun and tell her not to leak any information. Otherwise, we will face a calamity. Who knows, maybe the Ancestral Hall will launch a terrifying attack against us. It might even threaten the entire Earth. Su Yen was naturally clear, but now was not the time. Yun was currently in the limelight. He could not chat too much with Yun. After the banquet, make a trip to Dual Polarity City and give these things to Teacher Yuan. Su Yen gave him a sealed jade cauldron. Tai Baotsai's eyes immediately turned red as he said greedily, One must be honest. The Purple Sun Dao right is our family's treasury. Brat, we are all family. Quickly take it out and divide it evenly. Don't go against your conscience and keep it for yourself. Su Yen wanted nothing more than to kick him away. He transmitted his voice unhappily. There are some precious treasured liquids inside. It should be enough for you to use. Also, don't let that backer of yours go. I don't know what will happen during this period of time. I want to go to the ancient Tao right to take a look. Who knows, he might be able to support us at a critical moment. Chapter 4:14. I'm here for the ancient Tao right. That Taoist said so. Tai Baokai secretly transmitted his voice. This ancient Tao right has a great origin. Maybe you can find some good fortune there. When it opens, you can sneak in and take a look. Hearing this, Su Yen had a bright idea. He transmitted his voice. Find a way to let teacher Yuan sneak in. This place might be related to the buried region. It's said that this ancient Tao right has influenced those who have stepped into the domain of almighty beings. The inheritance inside must be extraordinary. What kind of existence were almighty beings? They were even more terrifying than the divine king. They were the pinnacle powerhouses of the universe, incomparable giants. Who is Xia Kunlun? Stand out and let me take a look. Have you grown 3 heads and 6 arms? The lively banquet was suddenly shaken by a piercing voice. Some wine jugs toppled over, spilling wine all over the floor. The entire banquet hall suddenly fell silent. But some people felt a chill run down their back. They felt a cold wind blow behind their heads, as if a palm was slapping them. They were terrified and quickly put up a defense. Meng Ying's face was stiff. The Crepe Myrtle sect was the host of this banquet. Who would dare to cause trouble here? Was Xia Kunlun a normal person? Even Hitorigami was killed by him in 3 punches. Some cultivators in the banquet looked at Xia Kunlun. Although this person's origins were mysterious, his combat strength was not to be underestimated. The news of him killing Hitorigami with 3 punches had already spread. Even now, no one knew what kind of cultivation he practiced. Dark underworld lineage. When their eyes focused on the source, they saw a billowing cold wind sweep over. It was as if a corner of purgatory had been lifted, revealing a vicious fluctuation. It was the complete opposite of the sacred aura present. This was undoubtedly the dark underworld lineage. Who are you? Su Yen suddenly stood up and shouted loudly. His tongue was like a thunderclap, causing golden ripples to vibrate between the heavens and the earth. With a whoosh, it dispersed the chilly wind that filled the sky. It was like the sound of thunder in the night sky. This shout was incomparably vigorous and shook the heavens and the earth. The space twisted and distorted. Shadows with powerful auras walked out one after another. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Their faces were pale and their skin was golden. They had cultivated the Vajra indestructible body and released a powerful deterrent force. Their faces were cold as they walked over. Every move they made was filled with power that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The 3rd Ingjie of the Umbra lineage has mastered the indestructible diamond body. Everyone present was shocked. First of all, this type of battle constitution was extremely difficult to cultivate, but now 3 of them had walked out at once. Could it be that the hidden geniuses of the underworld branch were coming out? You are Xia Kunlun. A man spoke, his eyes exuding a cold, killing intent. He stared at Su Yen and shouted, "You've got guts. You even dared to kill Hitorigami, a subordinate of In Xian. Even if you are the disciple of a mighty figure, you still have to account for this matter." "That's easy." Su Yen waved at him and said, "Come here, I'll give you an explanation. You want me to go over?" In Qixing's eyes turned cold. His chi suddenly became terrifying. The diamond body was recovering, and it was blazing. The source of his power was like a huge black ripple. His body seemed to be made of divine iron, indestructible. "Impudent," Meng Ying said with a cold face, "the Crepe Myrtle Pure Land is an important place. How can we allow you to fight here?" "Grand Elder, this has nothing to do with me," Su Yen said coldly. "Someone came and provoked me. I can't pretend that I didn't see it." "Is the Crepe Myrtle Pure Land going to protect him?" In Qixing said with a gloomy face. "When In Xian's Hitorigami died, why didn't you do anything? Now you're asking me about it." Zhu Xing suddenly stood up and defended Su Yan. "In Qixing, that Hidarigami is too arrogant. And In Luan, he even asked Brother Kunlun to kneel and kowtow to him? How laughable! Who would have thought that Hidarigami would be killed by Brother Kunlun in 3 punches during the battle?" Everyone wanted to laugh but couldn't. After all, Hidarigami was very strong, but being killed by Xia Kunlun in 3 punches caused quite a stir. "Shut up!" In Qixing's face turned gloomy. He didn't want to fight with Zhu Xing, so he stared at Su Yan and shouted, "Do you dare to fight me? Stop dilly-dallying. If you want to fight, then get over here." Su Yan opened his eyes wide and waved his hand at him. "Come, don't you want to talk? Bastard!" In Qixing rushed forward and unleashed his aura. His golden body was like an indestructible battle physique, surging with surging energy as he threw a punch forward, causing the void to tremble. "Your strength is not bad, but your speed is too slow." Everyone thought this was a peak battle. They didn't expect Xia Kunlun to control the world with a single slap. It was as if he had grasped a small world. "Dao brother, please don't hurt him." Saintess Zi Wei's expression changed as she transmitted her voice. Could he be? Yi Siyun watched all of this. She couldn't believe that Xia Kunlun was Su Yan. Only a few years had passed. Su Yan was still a little Dao Gate cultivator. Could he have grown to the same level as the geniuses of the peak factions? "Xia Kunlun, I underestimated him. This person's battle strength is not weak. I wonder how strong he is when he only used his physical strength." Even Zhu Yong's pupils constricted slightly. This palm enveloped the entire universe, and an astonishing power surged forth. It crushed down in all directions and suppressed Zhu Yong's Vajra body. Even the tough diamond body seemed to be shattered by this slap. How is this possible? In Qixing's expression was ugly. He was also a genius of the Umbra lineage. Although he wasn't ranked in the top 3, he had cultivated the diamond body. However, he felt like he was being suppressed by Su Yan. Wasn't this person too strong? Even when he fought with Su Yan, he could clearly feel that Su Yan was using his physical strength. This made In Qixing a little frightened. Just how monstrous was this Xia Kunlun's physical body? At this moment, a terrifying airflow swept over. It was like a black path, sweeping through the sky with turbulent airwaves. "Who is it? Stop!" The Crepe Myrtle sect elder's expression changed. Just as he was about to attack, he found that the aura was quite terrifying. It descended from the sky and filled the area where Su Yan was. The divine power he erupted with was shattered, and a palm slammed down towards Xia Kunlun. Meng Ying sucked in a breath of cold air. This was definitely a peak domain expert. Just this kind of power was enough to make all the heroes pale in comparison. Could it be that a star domain supreme expert had come? The person who attacked was quite powerful. With a single palm, he wanted to suppress Xia Kunlun to the ground. One could imagine how powerful he was. "Ha ha ha, you're dead meat." In Qixing laughed. "Even the disciple of a supreme expert is not enough to fight with my Umbra lineage." The giant palm descended from the sky like an ancient divine mountain, attracting the attention of King Flash and Sun Dome. "Come out, I'll kill you." Xia Kunlun was also infuriated. Shocking energy waves were brewing in his body, as if a sleeping god was being unsealed. The rippling energy waves seemed to be able to make the Pure Land collapse. This was the release of the Dragon Totem's aura, causing Meng Ying and the others to pale. They all felt like they were about to shatter. F***CK. Some people's faces darkened. He had taken out his treasures without saying a word. This was too rich. "Stop!" A berating voice exploded, rumbling like a tsunami, intimidating everyone. It was definitely a major figure from the Crepe Myrtle sect. A hazy shadow of chaotic light appeared in the depth. His eyes were burning with anger as he shouted, "Is it your turn to behave atrociously here? Senior, please don't take offense." A shadow with a sharp aura appeared in the void. It was as if the young divine king had his back facing everyone. Although he was apologizing, the killing intent emitted from his eyes was not concealed at all. His eyes stared at Su Yan, revealing a terrifying killing intent. It's Yin Xian. The surrounding people paled. They did not expect Yin Xian to really come and even attack Xia Kunlun just now. Hanba is his general, so I'm not surprised that he came. I didn't expect Xia Kunlun to not be at the Great Dao Realm and still be at the Quasi-Dao Realm. He can't defeat Yin Xian at all. Many people were discussing. Brat, you dare to sneak attack me? Su Yan's aura was very strong, and the dragon totem was about to revolve around his body. He pointed at Yin Xian and shouted, "Come here, I'll destroy you." Yin Xian's aura became terrifying again. Even if a major figure from the Crepe Myrtle sect was here, he was not afraid. After all, he was a young supreme being from a peak faction. His physical body was incomparably powerful, and he dominated the various galaxies. Without a doubt, Yin Xian was also a great Dao realm cultivator. Impudent! If you don't stop, don't blame me for beating you out. The major figure from the Crepe Myrtle sect had a grim expression. No matter what, they were still two juniors. If they fought here and caused too much of a commotion, wouldn't the various experts who were having a meeting laugh at them? Yin Xian's expression sank slightly. Fighting here was not a small matter. Brother Yin Xian, we're just here for a chat. There's no need to make such a big fuss. King Flash spoke. His tone was calm, and he did not look at Xia Kunlun. To him, those who were not of the same generation were not worth conversing with. The identity of a major figure's disciple was nothing to King Flash and Sun Dome. That's true. Yin Xian retracted his aura. I won't bully the weak. I'll let you live for a few more days. Don't think that just because you're a major figure's disciple, you can act unbridled in the universe. Don't think that just because you ate your father's flesh, you can speak with such a shameless tone. Xia Kunlun's words almost made Yin Xian explode with anger. No matter how good his mentality was, he could not bear such words. He hated it when people mentioned this sentence the most. Back then, his father had been killed by the old leader of the Burial Region bloodline. This matter was also a pain in his heart. The surrounding people were also silent. He dared to say this? I'm tired of eating the blood of the Burial Region bloodline. It seems like I really have to change my taste. Yin Xian's eyes bloomed with killing intent. He suppressed the anger of sacrificing Su Yan and said coldly, Xia Kunlun, we'll see. Bao Cai's eyes widened and he was in a bad mood. Chapter 4:15. King Flash, Yin Xian, and Sun Dome. The three of them represented the three pinnacle forces of the universe. They were the supreme beings of the younger generation, and each of them had monstrous battle prowess. In the future, they would definitely be one of the main characters contending for hegemony. The three of them are really impressive. The older generation were all watching from the sidelines. This was a rarely seen distinguished meeting. The three young supreme beings who were like suns in the sky were gathered, making the younger generation here all pale in comparison. There were some geniuses who sighed, feeling that the disparity between them and themselves was a bit too great. Without comprehending the Tao, one would never become an expert, and one's future achievements would be limited. No matter how outstanding one's performance in the Quasi-Dao realm was, as long as one didn't comprehend the Tao, one would never reach such heights. Now, the younger generation of the various forces were all accumulating their resources, waiting for the day when they would soar. This ancient Tao right was the best choice. It had once produced a supreme being, and if they had the opportunity to obtain some benefits, they would definitely be valued by the clan. After all, the Holy Lands were too difficult to find. The most crucial step in entering the Great Dao realm was to control how strong the power of the Great Dao was. For example, Yang Qiong, the star domain paragon of the 9-Yang star zone, had grown with the Great Dao of the strongest ancient star. His future path had already been determined. This was a golden path, and given enough time, he would be able to rise up. Therefore, the top 10 forces were always strong. After the disturbance just now, the elites of the various large clans started to observe, as if they wanted to distance themselves from Xia Kunlun. It was obvious that even a living supreme being couldn't threaten the dark underworld lineage. The clan had been floating in the universe for a long time, and many supreme beings had emerged. They didn't lack resources. Even if a supreme being occupied the clan's territory, he wouldn't be able to break through the dark underworld lineage and might even be forced away. For example, Yin was a supreme genius, a future supreme being who could make the dark underworld lineage spend a large amount of money to purchase the dragon transformation fruit. It was obvious that Yin status in the clan was high. They didn't think that Xia Kunlun could defeat Yin. The key was that the dark underworld lineage's resources were unfathomable. They controlled all kinds of treasured lands in Dao right. They didn't lack Dao Enlightenment holy lands. Although they didn't lack supreme beings, compared to the great Dao imprint of the strongest ancient planet, there was still a huge gap. Haha, that's all there is to it. In this vast universe, other than the top 10 forces, all other orthodoxies and inheritances are overshadowed by our top 10 forces. They are destined to become foils. Seeing that Su Yan was about to be isolated, Yin Qixing shook his head and sneered. The difference was too big. Yin Xian's arrival caused the members of the various sects and clans to walk up and toast him respectfully. On the other hand, Su Yan's side had very few people. Clearly, they did not want to offend Yin Xian, nor did they agree that Xia Kunlun had the same combat strength as Yin Xian. After all, anyone could see that Xia Kunlun was still at the Quasi-Dao realm from the confrontation just now. I'll be leaving first. Tai Danius sneaked away and prepared to return to Twin Polarity City to see if he could sneak in with Yuan. At this time, Zhu Yong walked over with a group of people. They were all the younger generation disciples of the Ancestral Hall. They were more or less related to Zhu Jiwen and the others who Su Yan had killed in the Purple Sun Daoist rite. They spoke with hatred and asked Xia Kunlun about Su Yan's whereabouts. The Ancestral Hall had gone crazy looking for him, but there was not a single trace of him in the entire world. Even after offering a divine tool as a reward, they still couldn't find a single clue. With Zhu Xing testifying for Su Yan, his words were filled with gratitude. He said that Xia Kunlun should be recuperating and didn't know much. Will they be suspicious of me? Su Yan said in his heart. He began to be vigilant. Now that the experts of the Ancestral Hall were busy with the matter of the Divine Mountain Range, he reckoned that Zhu Wenxiong would personally come to interrogate him after this matter was concluded. At that time, it would be difficult to easily brush them off. I can't use this identity anymore. Let's leave this place as soon as possible. Su Yan became vigilant. Fortunately, he didn't kill Zhu Xing back then. With him exonerating himself, the younger generation of the Ancestral Hall wouldn't suspect Xia Kunlun's identity too much. The gathering didn't last for long. When Yi Si Yun left, they were more concerned about the opening of the ancient Dao rite. The Purple Myrtle Pure Land had also prepared a place for them to stay for the time being. Now, a group of peak experts were having a discussion. Moreover, the matter of the twin polarity star had been spread out, causing a huge uproar. It wouldn't take long for the news to spread throughout the starry seas. Could it be that the Divine Mountain Range is about to open? The entire world was paying attention to this place. It was known as the Divine Mountain Dao right during the Ancient Universe era. It had been a forbidden zone for an entire universe era. If it was really going to open, then it would be the birth of a boundless land of treasures. Even if the environment didn't change, it would be a blessing for the younger generation. I'm not sure. The aristocratic families that received the news have already sent experts to the twin polarity star to investigate. This is going to be lively. If the Divine Mountain Range is really going to open, Who knows how many geniuses of the younger generation will be born? Now is the crucial time for the younger generation to enter the grand Tao realm. The appearance of the divine mountain range will drive the younger generation crazy. That's right. That is a land of Tao verification. Every generation has been occupied by a powerful expert, leaving behind an indelible mark. Those young geniuses who can't obtain a star domain great Tao imprint can definitely enter the divine mountain range to comprehend the great Tao. The universe was bustling with activity. Some capable aristocratic families had already sent out their old ancestors to fight for some spots for their disciples. If the divine mountain range was really going to open, it wouldn't be open to the public. It would definitely be controlled by the various peak forces. Therefore, all the major forces were anxious and hoped to get a share of the profit. After all, this was a land of boundless treasures waiting to be excavated. The purple myrtle Pure Land was no longer peaceful. Experts would frequently arrive from the outside. All sorts of terrifying auras filled the air, causing the entire Pure Land to be filled with an oppressive aura. The situation was a bit chaotic. Su Yen sat cross-legged in a courtyard with his back facing the house. He looked outside and could feel that the frequent arrivals were not to be underestimated. The more it was like this, the calmer Su Yen became. His state of mind was clear, and he wouldn't reveal his identity in a short period of time. Su Yen wanted to meet Yi Si Yun and understand the ancient Tao rite. He wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. 1. Auspicious clouds bloomed from his forehead. A pearl floating in his sea of consciousness glowed. This was the pearl of great Tao. Su Yen, who had the pearl of great Tao, had an unusually sharp perception. With the help of the pearl of great Tao, Su Yan's understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth became even clearer. The pearl of great Tao was a treasure for comprehending the great Tao. With the help of such an item, the chances of comprehending the great Tao were very high. This was especially true for those from the transcendence realm to the quasi-Tao realm. Could play a crucial role. Tao sounds resonated in his body. At the moment of the initial sutra, Su Yen turned into a heavenly cauldron surrounded by the light of the great Tao. His aura was sacred and dignified. Suddenly, Su Yen felt as if he had become one with the heavens and earth. He had touched the power of the great Tao. This was the effect of the second ancestral land of the crepe myrtle sect. It made it easier for one to comprehend the great Tao. He seemed to have become a part of the heavens and earth. As he comprehended the aura of the great Tao, his entire body and mind were magnified infinitely. He seemed to have seen a second world. This world seemed a little small, and all living things were like ants. Under this magical power of the great Tao, everything seemed to be vulnerable and could even be shattered and reforged. This was the power of the great Tao. It was majestic and unpredictable. Su Yan's comprehension reached a very deep level. The fire of the heavenly cauldron of the great Tao burned even more fiercely and violently. Su Yan had a feeling that his body was one with the heavens and earth. He had a tendency to merge with the great Tao. He wanted to obtain a kind of energy that could break the current limit and obtain an even stronger power. Boom! When Su Yan's comprehension of the great Tao reached a critical moment, the sound of thunder rang in his ears. It was as if he saw terrifying suns burning one after another, burning the sky. It was terrifying to the extreme. Who is it? Some cultivators who had been cultivating diligently were very angry. Even the fluctuations of the great battle were very violent. It spread throughout the entire outer Pure Land. There were also deafening roars that shook the heavens. I really have to thank them. Su Yan's eyes suddenly opened. Just now, he had almost entered the quasi-Tao realm. However, this was not the Tao that Su Yan was pursuing. It was obvious that the great Tao that Su Yan had comprehended just now was a little weaker than the great Tao power that the Sun Dome was releasing now. Su Yan looked and saw the 9 heavenly suns arranged in the sky. It was as if they had turned into a condensed nine suns galaxy. They exuded a terrifying aura. At this moment, the Sun Dome could be said to be the overlord of the world. His roar could shake the mountains and rivers. He was fighting against a heavenly rock with a terrifying aura. He was like a demon. His roar could shake the stars in the sky. Without a doubt, this was a peerless genius of the demon region, the right-hand man of the North Demon. Comprehending the great Tao is not easy. Su Yan's face was solemn. He felt the importance of this. This was because it was related to the environment. It was very important. This is what Grandpa DeLong said. The environment has changed. Even the initial scripture can't be used to its limit. Su Yan thought. The current era was the most glorious era of the burial region. 1,000,000 years had passed. The environment of the universe had changed. Of course, the most important thing was that this was not a peerless Tao field or a rare celestial land. Therefore, the Tao that Su Yan comprehended had merged with it and merged with the Tao. It was impossible to cultivate to the level of the Sun Dome's domain. It was even weaker than the lower star regions. No wonder the title of Star Region Supreme was so coveted. In the process of entering the Great Tao, one had to merge with the world. This meant that the cultivation environment was very important. Once one entered the Great Tao realm rashly, one's future achievements would be limited. Of course, there was still room for improvement from the Quasi-Tao realm to the Great Tao realm. However, it was impossible to casually find a place to cultivate and comprehend the Great Tao. After all, this was only the outer region of the Ziwei Pure Land. Su Yan's heart was restless. He wondered if he could obtain the Great Tao imprints of the other star regions. Even if he entered the Quasi-Tao realm, he could lay down the foundation in the process of merging with the Tao. Who is it? While Su Yan was thinking, he raised his head and looked ahead. In the courtyard, where birds chirped and flowers bloomed, clouds rolled. A slender woman walked over. Her steps were light and graceful. Her hair was black, and her snow-like dress fluttered in the wind. It was night-time. The moonlight scattered down, making her look like a fairy from the Moon Palace. She looked at Su Yan with a cold expression. Su Yan stood up and looked at the woman standing proudly in front of him. He smiled and said, "Fairy, do you want to go home with me? Where did you come from?" Yun clenched her slender hands and walked toward him. Su Yan stood tall and straight. With his back to the house, he looked at her and said, "I came from the snow mountain. Where do you want to go?" Yun asked again. Her clothes fluttered in the wind, and her temperament was cold. She was like a fairy from the Moon Palace. Her beauty was natural. "I'm here to bring you home." Chapter 4:16. The familiar face in front of her made Yun slightly absent-minded. Her emotions surged, clear tears faintly flashed in her eyes, and a smile appeared on her snow-white cheeks. It could be said that her smile could topple a city. To Yun, Su Yan was the closest person in the world. Now that she saw him in perfect condition, even appearing in front of her, Yun was filled with excitement and flew towards Su Yan. Su Yan did not expect Yun to be so wild. She suddenly threw herself at Su Yan. Her snow-white arms wrapped around Su Yan's neck, and her slender long legs clamped around Su Yan's waist. Her two hands hugged tightly, and her longing was self-evident. Inisi was an ice beauty. She was cold and elegant, but she had never revealed such emotional fluctuations. Now, her passion was like a blazing flame that was about to engulf Su Yan. She lost control of her emotions. Back then on Earth, she thought that she had died. She did not expect to survive. This kind of life and death was like a kind of reincarnation. In the past, she was just trying to find a girl who had lost her youth. She was pitiful and helpless. Although she came to Alcade Planet and found a way to recover her youth, in this life star field where she had no relatives, Su Yan was her closest person. The sudden separation made her uneasy. Even when she came to Crepe Myrtle Sect, it was difficult to feel a sense of belonging. It made it difficult for Yun to let go, and it was also difficult for her to calm down and cultivate. As she cultivated, Inisi's understanding of the universe increased. She also realized how cruel the universe was. Death was a very common occurrence. The universe was too vast, and there were countless living beings. Their numbers were uncountable. Yun could only cultivate desperately. Finally, she had enough strength to come out and find Su Yen. She did not expect that Su Yen would be standing in front of her. Standing here, her soft body was in his arms, and her body fragrance was intoxicating. Su Yen didn't know what to do. He stretched out his arms stiffly and hugged Yun's tiny waist. He sniffed Yun's unique body fragrance, and felt that the world was very peaceful. It was as if the whole world had quietened down, and he could hear his own heartbeat. "What are you doing?" The sudden voice startled Su Yen. He looked at Yun's beautiful face. Her slightly reddened eyes were staring at him with a hint of rebuke. Suddenly, Su Yen realized that his palm was involuntarily supporting her round and perky buttocks. Su Yen was slightly absent-minded and couldn't help but pinch it. Yun was silent. She stared at him and tilted her head slightly. Cough. Su Yen immediately came back to his senses when he saw the other party's expression, which was as if he had been bullied. He asked awkwardly, "Whose is this?" "Puppy's," Yun choked out. "Yun, I haven't seen you in a few years, and you've become more capable." Su Yen carried Yun and ran into the house. Like a gust of wind, the door closed with a bang. Incense burners curled up in spirals in the house. The whole building was made of precious wood and looked very comfortable. Su Yen carried Yun and ran inside. He looked around and breathed heavily. "What are you looking for?" Yun frowned slightly. Her red lips were bright and her eyes were like limpid autumn water. She looked around with a puzzled gaze. "I'm looking for a bed," Su Yen replied. His eyes lit up when he saw a big sandalwood bed. "What are you doing?" Yun was a little flustered. Her eyes were evasive and her heart was beating wildly. She was being carried by Su Yen and her body was weak. "I'm taking a rest. I'm a little tired." Su Yen strode forward, causing Inisi to be speechless. Before she could open her mouth, Su Yen had already thrown her onto the bed and pounced on her, hugging her fiercely in his arms. At this moment, the whole world was quiet again. Su Yen hugged Yun and smelled her fragrance. His heart was beating very fast. "What are you doing?" Yun's breathing was a little hurried. Her cheeks were overflowing with fragrant sweat. She looked gorgeous and charming. Her skin was as white as snow, but now it was suffused with patches of blush. It was intoxicating. Yun had only had one male friend, Su Yen. However, the two of them had never been so intimate. Su Yen's actions made Yun very flustered. If the geniuses outside who were pursuing the sacred body of Taiyin saw this scene, they would probably want to chop Su Yen into minced meat. "What do you mean, what am I doing? Are you thinking about something dirty?" Su Yen replied righteously. "Do you want to make a move on me?" Su Yen hugged the jade body in his arms tightly. This was the first time he realized that the tall and slender Yun's body was so voluptuous and hot. He almost vomited blood. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yun was embarrassed and angry. She glared at Su Yen and fiercely bit him. However, it was a little painful. Su Yen's body was very strong. The tyrannical strength of his body was like that of a true dragon. It was far superior to cultivators of the same level. Time passed bit by bit. The whole room was filled with a charming atmosphere. It was as if time had stopped. It was abnormally quiet. On this big sandalwood bed, a man and a woman were hugging each other tightly. It was like dry firewood and raging fire. "What kind of broken bed is this? There isn't even a quilt? This is too degrading." After a long time, Su Yen cursed. Yun waved her fist and fiercely punched him. She angrily said, "Are you very hot? Do you want me to boil a basin of hot water for you?" "No need. dry firewood and raging fire, how can it not be heated? Su Yen was angry and didn't dare to do anything. What are you thinking about? Inisi struggled to break free. She flipped her body over and buried her head in the pillow. She had a shy look on her face. I'm thinking about how I can take you away. Su Yen looked at the ceiling with bright eyes and relaxed. You asked me to come back then and now you want me to leave? Do you think it's that easy? Si-yun snorted. She shrugged and said, Also, how much trouble have you caused these years? How did you provoke the ancestral hall? I heard it's the strongest force in the universe. It's a long story. Su Yen was silent for a while. He then smiled and said, I didn't expect the beauty of our Huaxia alliance to have so many suitors. Look at the people outside, the line can reach outer space. Are you afraid that I'll stay in Crepe Myrtle sect and not leave? Si-yun covered her head and said in a muffled voice, Or are you worried that I'll find a man and settle down here? Both. Su Yen arched his body and his eyes scanned her tall and voluptuous body. After a while, he said, Don't you know that there is a saying, don't let the goodies flow into the fields of others? You'd better be honest and tell me everything clearly. Si-yun gritted her teeth and said, What happened? I've been in seclusion in Crepe Myrtle sect all these years. I don't know anything about the outside world. It's a long story. Su Yen asked, Who did you take as your master? Did they ask about your background? My master is a very nice person. Si-yun pondered for a while and said, When I came to Crepe Myrtle sect, the strong cultivators of Crepe Myrtle sect all wanted to take me as their disciple. My master is the previous leader of Crepe Myrtle sect. Although she doesn't have much lifespan left, she has great prestige in Crepe Myrtle sect and accepted me as her disciple. All these years, she has been guiding my cultivation. The old leader really didn't care about my background. Su Yen was moved. The previous leader of Crepe Myrtle sect was an incredible existence. She must be a famous strong cultivator in the universe. However, the old leader's lifespan was already over 10,000 years. If it wasn't for Si-yun's arrival, she wouldn't have continued to come out. It's Saintess Crepe Myrtle who has been very concerned about my background. Si-yun said suspiciously, but she seems to be a good person. There's nothing wrong with her style in Crepe Myrtle sect. She's highly regarded by the sect and the disciples support her. She's also very warm to me. Be careful of this woman. She's very scheming and has been trying to kill me all these years. Su Yan's eyes flashed with coldness. This Saintess Crepe Myrtle treated Si-yun like a sister, but she has been plotting against him behind his back. Either she didn't want to give up her saintess status, or she was jealous of Si-yun's talents. Su Yen really didn't know anything else. Like I said, I feel that she's a bit hypocritical. After all, we don't know each other, but she takes care of me a lot. After all, the sect said that I'm the future saintess. I took away her identity and status. Si-yun immediately nodded and said, It seems that I need to be careful of her in the future. Her master is this generation's leader of Crepe Myrtle sect. She's a bit mysterious. Mysterious? Su Yen was shocked and asked, What do you mean? I feel that my master is very wary of sect leader Crepe Myrtle, as if he's on guard against her. This includes some of the high elders in the sect. Si-yun pondered for a while and said with a strange tone, Also, I heard that the leader of Crepe Myrtle sect is related to the ancient Tao shrine. Su Yan's expression changed greatly. The ancient Tao shrine opened once every 10,000 years. The current leader of Crepe Myrtle sect couldn't be 10,000 years old, right? What is the origin of this ancient Tao shrine? Su Yen asked. It's hard to say. Si-yun slightly shook her head and continued, It's very difficult to find the origin of the ancient Tao shrine in the records. However, my master values it a lot and said that I must go when it opens. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come out of seclusion. The old leader wants me to cultivate to the grand Tao realm before entering the secular world to cultivate. Your master is very good to you. Su Yen couldn't help but nod and say, Since I'm here, I also want to take a look inside the ancient Tao shrine. It's said that it's a holy land for Tao comprehension. Hearing this, Yun slightly clenched her slender hands. She hesitated for a while and said, I feel that you're in a bad situation right now. Why don't you come with me to see the old leader? Maybe she can help you. Yen quickly refused. No, I'm in big trouble right now. You can't expose our relationship or you'll be implicated. To put it bluntly, even Crepe Myrtle sect won't be able to protect you. If the Ancestral Hall and the Umbra sect knew that Yun had the blood of the burial realm flowing in her body, the consequences would be severe. He didn't think that Crepe Myrtle sect would use all their resources to fight against the two top forces. However, the two top forces would definitely take action against Yun. After all, she had the sacred extreme Yin body, a supreme physique that would threaten the two forces in the future. What did you do? Even Crepe Myrtle sect can't protect you? Yun's expression changed. Her body trembled slightly. Even Crepe Myrtle sect couldn't stop the storm. Yen had gotten himself into too much trouble. Yun felt a little suffocated. It's related to Earth. Yen said in a low voice. No matter when, don't reveal the origin of Earth. If you do, I'm worried that something big will happen and it will be fatal to our race. Since it's related to Earth, I must stand up. Yun gathered her courage and turned around. Her face was still shy. She looked at Yen and said seriously, I don't want to be a coward. However, the latter noticed that Yen had been staring in one direction. Yun was suspicious. She followed Yan's gaze and saw that her snow-white and slender legs were exposed under her dress. They were naked and exuded a seductive aura. Yun's face turned red. She was so angry that she ground her teeth. No, you must listen to me on this matter. Yen acted as if he had not seen anything. He looked at Inisi with a serious expression and said, even if you want to stand out, you have to cultivate to the great Tao realm first. Right now, we don't even have the ability to go against them head-on. We can't even catch up to the strongest expert of the younger generation. You might not be able to defeat me now. Yun raised her beautiful face like a proud swan. There was a faint energy leaking out from her body. It's time to show my special skills and rule my place in the family. Chapter 4:17. The energy in the room fluctuated, and on the big sandalwood bed, an erotic scene appeared. Yun's skin was whiter than snow, and her skin was as fair as jade. Although she looked like an ice beauty in front of others, on the big sandalwood bed, she was charming. Her proud figure was overflowing with light, and her snow-white skin rippled with holy radiance. She was like a fairy who had fallen into the mortal world. Her small waist twisted and turned like a divine phoenix awakening. However, no matter how strong Inisi's strength was, she was ruthlessly suppressed by Yan's overbearing strength. Damn it! Yun was angry, and she was trembling with anger. She realized that the strength she was so proud of couldn't stop Yen. Seeing that she was being taken advantage of, Yan's entire body was pressed against her curvy body. Inisi was embarrassed and angry. Her snow-white skin glowed. It was very hot, like a sun, surging with a vast lunar aura. In this aura there was even a terrifying saintly aura awakening. Yun was like a saintess, and her body trembled with terrifying power. It was like a condensed extreme Yin ocean was awakening. There was also a saintly aura that was extremely overbearing. This came from the potential of the extreme Yin saint physique. Its strength was unimaginable, and its terrifying power was enough to threaten some quasi-Tao realm cultivators. There was no doubt that Yun hadn't cultivated to the quasi-Tao realm, but with her current potential, she was already strong enough. After all, she was nurtured by the old leader of the Crepe Myrtle sect, and he was willing to give her all kinds of resources. She even cultivated the immortal extreme Yin ancient scripture. You're rebelling. Yen laughed. Yun was strong, but she was still far from being able to face Su Yan. His 4 limbs seemed to have turned into the 4 poles of the universe, containing a divine aura that suppressed everything. He locked down the entire space and ruthlessly suppressed Yi Si-yun's potential. Su Yan was also very surprised by Yi Si-yun's strength. The gap between Zhu Ji-won and her was huge. She deserved to be called the sovereign physique, and her future growth was huge. Yi-si felt a sense of helplessness in her heart. When she realized that Su Yan's hand was not obediently roaming around her body, Yi-si punched him and said in embarrassment and anger, "Stop trying to climb the tree. Behave yourself. I'm just seeing if you've lost weight." Su Yan looked up at her delicate face and laughed. "I don't think so. I feel like I've put on a lot of weight." Fat? Yi-si was stunned. Other than having a special constitution, how could a cultivator be fat? However, when she sensed Su Yan's treacherous gaze, Yi-si's pretty face turned slightly red. She understood what he meant. She lowered her head and said angrily, "What nonsense are you saying? All right, let's get down to business." Su Yan turned over and hugged her in his arms. After pondering for a while, he sighed and said, "Some time ago, I met a senior from our Earth." "What?" Yi Si-yun was stunned. Her heart was filled with disbelief. It was reasonable to say that Earth was an ancient planet that had just awakened. However, if it was really as Su Yan had said, then Earth had once had a god and devil civilization. It was probably very prosperous. Otherwise, why would it attract the attention of the ancestral hall? So our Earth belongs to the burial region. Yi Si-yun understood. Zhu Yan was not a cultivator from the ancestral hall. If it was not because Su Yan had stepped into the Tao Gate realm and was proficient in the inheritance of the mystical gate, and even had the treasure given to him by Bamboo Moon, the consequences would have been unimaginable. It was very likely that their race would be enslaved or even wiped out. They are living a hard life. I want to help them, but I don't have the strength to do so. There was a trace of coldness in Su Yan's eyes. He stared at her and said word by word, "No matter what you choose in the future, I hope that you will be strong enough to return. I have a bad premonition." Su Yan's solemn expression made Yi Si-yun roll her eyes. She said angrily, "I have already died once. What do I have to fear in the future? If it was not because the old sect master treated me well, I might have already left." "Do you want to go home with me?" Su Yan suddenly stretched out his hand and caressed her face. Her skin was white and soft. It was like touching a hot spring. Su Yan's heartbeat quickened. Seeing her shy and embarrassed appearance, Su Yan's breathing was a little heavy as he said, "Yi Si, you once died for me. How do you think I should repay you?" Su Yan's action made Yi Si-yun pinch him. She said angrily, "I'm warning you. This is the Z-Way Pure Land. You better stay here. My time is almost up. If I go out for too long, they will be suspicious." Hearing this, the heat in Su Yan's heart dissipated like the tide. He became alert and used his primordial spirit to check the surroundings. The entire residence was now covered by a formation. However, the Z-Way Pure Land was in chaos now. The incident at the godly spiritual mountain had spread to all the races. There would be experts from all the races coming to the Z-Way Pure Land to get a share. Therefore, the experts of the Z-Way Pure Land would not notice that the great moon saint physique that they were so proud of was lying on Su Yan's bed. "It's time for me to go." When Su Yan calmed his mind again, Yi Si-yun was already standing in the room. Her clothes were fluttering in the wind and her black hair was shining brightly. She had an innate cold temperament. "Okay." Su Yan was reluctant. He walked over and took out some bottles and jars for her. He said, "I don't know if these things are useful to you." Yi Si-yun was surprised. She picked them up and inspected them. The things inside were not ordinary. There were all kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures. Many of them were limited resources, especially the treasures that Su Yan brought out from the Purple Sun Taoist ground. Even Yi Si-yun was moved. After she finished reading, Inisi raised her head and looked at Su Yen. She smiled and said, "Not bad. I didn't expect you to be so rich now. Although I don't know the price of these things, only a peak faction can take out these things. It seems like it's useless." Su Yen shrugged and helplessly said, "There's no other way. Who told you to be the saintess of a great sect and have a great backer? You must have a lot of limited resources. You are a famous rich woman." However, Su Yen suddenly reached out and took out 6 fish. They were all very fresh. These were the yin-yang fish, a total of 3 pairs. The effect of this item was amazing and could improve one's aptitude. It would certainly be very useful for Isi Yun. Yin-yang fish. Inisi was shocked. "You even have these things? I've eaten a pair before. These things are very rare in the crepe myrtle sect. The pair of yin-yang fish I ate was obtained by Master after a lot of effort. After all, she doesn't have much lifespan left, so her authority in the crepe myrtle sect is much lower. Master said before that although my physique has the ability to evolve into the Great Moon Saint physique, I need all kinds of great supplements. I have eaten many good things in the past few years, but the yin-yang fish is the most effective." "How did you get so many of them?" Isi Yun's eyes sparkled as she happily bid and took out 2. No matter how effective the yin-yang fish was, it would be useless if she ate too many of them. "It's good that they are useful to you." Su Yen had always been thinking about the fish kings in the yin-yang galaxy. If he stepped into the great Tao realm one day, he would definitely enter the yin-yang galaxy again to search for the 2 fish kings. If he could suppress them, it would be a good fortune that even the mighty figures would be jealous of. "This is for you." Isi Yun took out a void pouch and handed it to Su Yen. She said, "There are some resources inside that are very rare. I have no use for them, so I'll give them all to you. Then I won't stand on ceremony." Su Yen laughed loudly. After opening the void pouch and inspecting it, he was moved. There were many good things inside, and there were even 10 jars of heaven and earth source serum. However, this thing's effect was a little weak for Su Yen. He might as well choose the purple treasure liquid. Teacher Yuan should be able to use it. Su Yen mumbled to himself. They came from Earth, and the 4 of them were now considered to be reunited. He looked forward to the day when the 4 of them could return to Earth together. When they became stronger in the future, they could deal with the Ancestral Hall and the Dark Underworld lineage together. Su Yen was pleasantly surprised. He found a portion of the Qi of the Great Tao inside. This was a rare item. It was a precious gas formed from the essence of the Great Tao. It would be of great help to Su Yen in cultivating the Great Tao Heavenly Furnace. He felt that when he merged with Tao and comprehended the power of the Great Tao of Heaven and Earth, he would be able to cultivate the Great Tao Heavenly Furnace to a certain level. At that time, with the help of the Force Armor, it would be very different. Su Yen looked forward to gaining something from the ancient Tao field. Although Su Yen could be considered a quasi-Tao realm cultivator now, this was the source of power derived from his physical body. The human body was a treasure trove. Mastering the Great Tao of Heaven and Earth would definitely make Su Yen even more powerful. Perhaps the Great Tao Heavenly Furnace he cultivated would not be inferior to the Great Tao body of a Great Tao realm cultivator. It seems like I have to hurry and master the power of the Great Tao of Heaven and Earth. This way, my chances of survival in the universe will be greatly increased. The key is still the Immortal Mountain Range. If it can really be opened, I must enter and take a look. As Su Yen thought to himself, Isi Yun had already left. The Ziwei Pure Land was not peaceful now. With each passing day, more and more powerful cultivators from various races came. Even the younger generation came frequently. In the meeting place of the important figures, there were often terrifying auras. Without a doubt, the negotiations were not going smoothly. However, since the negotiations had been going on for so long, the method to open the Immortal Mountain Range should have been found. If the immortal mountain range is opened, will the yin-yang treasure liquid, which has been lost for countless years, appear? In the ancient universe era, this liquid was known as the strongest body refining liquid. It could make up for the deficiencies of one's physique and strengthen one's blood essence. It was a heaven-defying item that could improve one's aptitude. That's right. The bipolar star originally had the yin-yang fish. Although they are on the verge of extinction, the immortal mountain range has the yin-yang treasure liquid, which is known as a rare immortal liquid. The yin-yang treasure liquid was the strongest liquid essence of the bipolar star. Its effects were world-shaking. In the ancient universe era, the value of this liquid was much higher than the saint-grade origin serum. This liquid could only be produced in the bipolar star's immortal mountain range. From this, one could see how precious it was. Big news! The immortal mountain range is likely to open. There was already insider news that made people green with envy. Even if they couldn't obtain the good fortune, obtaining the corpses of some deities was a great opportunity. The ancient Tao field is about to open. Chapter 4:18. Ancient Tao Right Ground. Su Yen held the invitation in his hand, and his eyes shone with a strange light. He wondered what kind of opportunities he would encounter in this place. The female disciple from Ziwei Pure Land who came to deliver the invitation was very polite. After all, Xia Kunlun was the disciple of a powerful figure. It was just a spot in ancient Tao Right Ground, and it was nothing to Ziwei Pure Land. It's about to open. What a coincidence. I wonder if it has anything to do with Great Tao Mountain. Tai Gongji said excitedly, legend has it that Great Tao Mountain contains shocking Tao fruit. Even if ancient Tao Right Ground only has a part of it, it's still incredible. If there's an opportunity, it will greatly affect one's future cultivation path. I hope so. Su Yan's eyes were also filled with anticipation. If there really wasn't, then he could only go to Immortal Spiritual Mountain. However, Su Yan wanted to have stronger combat strength before Immortal Spiritual Mountain opened. His goal was to step into Quasi-Tao realm, and even without relying on force armor, he would be able to fight against ordinary Great Tao realm experts. He speculated that Immortal Spiritual Mountain would open soon, or else the younger generation of the major factions wouldn't come here. Everyone wanted to know what kind of legends were in this place that used to be God's Tao Right Ground. After all, if one wanted to comprehend the great Tao of heaven and earth and merge with it, finding a Tao Enlightenment sacred land was the best choice. In fact, he heard that even a genius like Sun Dome couldn't obtain the great Tao imprint of the strongest life ancient star. Hence, he had to lay down the foundation in advance and accumulate a peerless foundation in Quasi-Tao realm. Only then would he have a higher chance of obtaining the great Tao imprint's recognition. It was like building a building, one step after another. Quasi-Tao realm was like building the Tao foundation. As long as he could stand on this step, he would be able to soar in the future. Su Yen felt that he had to find a peerless Pure Land. If ancient Tao Right Ground was really a part of Great Tao Mountain, then it was really worth exploring. I wonder how the major factions have discussed. It's been 3 days, and there's still no conclusion. After all, the benefits are too great. The major factions won't give in easily. The Ancestral Hall and the other factions have already paid a huge price. Why would they give in so easily? You're right, but the Nine Yang sect and the other powerful clans have joined forces. The Nine Yang sect and the others have to give in. After all, this is a place of fortune, an ancient Taoist shrine. I think it's a place of fortune for the younger generation. Otherwise, they would have already invaded it. Inside the crepe myrtle blessed land, the older generation experts were having a discussion while the younger generation gathered together. Li. Right now, Yuan was full of vigor. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a powerful aura. His eyes were as sharp as blades. His figure was tall and sturdy, and his bronze skin was filled with masculine dominance. Yuan's appearance was completely different from before with his disheveled hair. In order to sneak into the ancient Dao ground, Yuan had to put on an act. He walked together with a mysterious existence like Tai Dainyu and was valued by the younger generation. He even made some friends. Over the past few days, Yuan's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He had even absorbed and refined the great Dao imprints Dao fruit. Although it was only 10 or 20% of the Dao fruit, it had given Yuan an unimaginable opportunity. That was an imprint left behind by a mighty figure. Tai Dainyu clenched his teeth as he observed Yun, who was surrounded by all kinds of geniuses. Even the star area supremes like Sun Dome had put down their pride and showed their admiration for this cold and beautiful extreme enchantment physique. Yun's temperament was cold and elegant. Her black hair was translucent, and her skin was whiter than snow. She was like a fairy who had walked out of a snowy country. She gave off a cold aura that kept people 1,000 miles away. Some of the young people who didn't have enough disciples didn't dare to talk to her. What a joke! Sun Dome and King Flash were right next to her. Who would dare to approach a woman who could make them work so hard to pursue her? I wonder if the extreme enchantment physique will marry outside? Someone was very concerned about this matter and whispered, "After all, she is the pearl of the crepe myrtle sect. She might not marry for the rest of her life and inherit the sect leader's position in the future." It's hard to say. Today, heroes are rising in the universe. There are many geniuses who are perfect. Perhaps the extreme enchantment physique is looking for an invincible star area supremacy. I think Sun Dome has a great chance. He and the extreme enchantment physique can complement each other. Maybe the crepe myrtle sect will really agree. There was a lot of discussion in the surroundings. However, someone shook his head and said, "I've heard some rumors. The crepe myrtle sect thinks very highly of Shuiguan. He is too mysterious and has never revealed himself. I wonder how strong his dual supremacy physique is." This matter wasn't groundless. Back when the extreme enchantment physique appeared, it was accompanied by Shuiguan. As for how high this Shuiguan's position in the crepe myrtle sect was, they still didn't know. In this pure land where clouds and mist rolled, the younger generation walked in one after another. There were thousands of them, and their backgrounds weren't small. All of them had powerful auras, and they were likely to be the rulers of powerful races in the future. It's just a small event, but so many young seeds have come. Even Meng Ying was astonished. He thought to himself, it seems like the golden years of the younger generation have arrived. In these few decades, the older generation will retreat behind the scenes, and the younger generation will be in charge. There was no doubt that in the future, the younger generation would rise up and become the rulers of various powerful races. After all, there were already people of the younger generation who had entered the great Dao realm. Meng Ying looked at Yun with satisfaction. She originally thought that Yun would look for her and ask about Su Yin. However, she didn't expect Yun to act as if she didn't know Su Yin. This made her very satisfied. She felt that Yun understood the big picture and was worth grooming in the future. Yun's eyes scanned the surroundings. When her gaze swept past Xia Kunlun, she felt apprehensive. After all, this place had become a tiger's den. More than 10 of the younger generation of the ancestral hall had come, and 3 of the younger generation of the dark underworld lineage had also come. Even the old ancestors of the 2 major orthodoxies were here to discuss matters. If Su Yan's identity was really exposed, he wouldn't be able to escape. How could Su Yan not be worried? However, he could only brace himself. If he didn't have the boundary-breaking talisman, no matter how bold he was, he wouldn't have dared to come here and throw his life away. Once his identity was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Dong, dong, dong. In the depths of the crepe myrtle pure land, a huge bell appeared in the sky and rang on its own. Purple ripples rippled out, containing the power of the great Tao, causing this place to instantly quiet down. This huge bell became more and more blazing. Vast waves of the great Tao surged, and chaotic air currents curled up around it. This bell was a divine king weapon. At the moment when it exhausted all its energy to awaken, the ancient bell emitted a divine might that overflowed into the sky. The aura of the divine king was released. The crowd trembled. This was a world-destroying might. Everyone's hands and feet turned cold, and they felt extremely suffocated. This wasn't targeted at them, but Su Yen felt his heart tremble violently, as if it was going to shatter along with the sound of the bell. This bell contained a demonic nature. Was this the power of the divine king weapon? Su Yan's eyes turned red. When would he be able to obtain such a powerful weapon? Boom! All of a sudden, the purple light of the divine king bell shone brightly and collapsed the space. An area of 10 li turned into a black hole. However, inside this black hole, an ancient starry sky tunnel appeared. It's true, the ancient Tao right is hidden in a relatively hidden place. Even Meng Ying didn't know where this place was. Without a doubt, it was not inside the Crepe Myrtle Pure Land, but in a hidden place on the bipolar star. It was the strongest treasure ground of the Crepe Myrtle sect. Of course, no one would believe that the Crepe Myrtle sect would really open this place once every 10,000 years. There must have been some outstanding disciples of the Crepe Myrtle sect who had been to the ancient Tao rite. Everyone walked towards the tunnel one after another. The scene was very quiet. The moment they stepped into the tunnel, Su Yen could clearly feel the astonishing spatial ripples in the tunnel. When one walked on the spatial tunnel, it was as if they were crossing a territory. Some people became more and more interested. Just how strong was the ancient Tao rite? It was actually valued by the Crepe Myrtle sect. Meng Ying and the other elders of the Crepe Myrtle sect led the way at the front. The group walked for about an hour before the entrance to the spatial tunnel appeared. However, the entrance was a bit frightening. It was like an ancient immortal cave shining with a dazzling light that made it difficult for people to look straight at it. Buzz. Sun Dome's body shone like an eternal sun burning. Millions of golden rays fell down, making him look like the king of the sun. Divine light erupted from his eyes as he stared straight at the entrance of the ancient Tao rite. The sound of thunder reverberated between heaven and earth. The world where the Lightning King was in change. Some people seemed to see millions of bolts of lightning wreaking havoc, one after another. These were substantial bolts of the Great Path, and every single one of them contained a wave that could destroy heaven and earth. The eruption of these two people was too sudden, especially Sun Dome and King Flash, who had recovered to the extreme. The various large family clansmen who followed them felt their hearts tremble. It was like they were seeing two condensed grand star domains, releasing terrifying auras that could not be changed. Yin was also recovering. Although his combat strength was extremely strong and he was known as one of the strongest star domain supreme beings, Yin had not obtained the mark of the dark underworld star domain's great Tao. Thus, in terms of might, there was a gap between him and Sun Dome and King Flash. These three people represented the three peak forces. Their eyes stared unblinkingly at the ancient Tao rite. Their hearts were greatly shaken because they realized that the ancient Tao rite was like a small, incomplete universe. Elder Meng Ying, is this an incomplete universe? Sun Dome asked, his eyes burning. The value of an incomplete universe was too terrifying. Although it was a small universe, it contained shocking Tao fruit. These things usually only existed in the ruins of chaos. The value of a small universe was even more precious than a mighty figure's Tao rite. It was even difficult to compare them together. Moreover, Sun Dome could not produce something of this level. Su Yen recalled what Fairy Lingyun had said years ago. It was said that the black stone bamboo moon had obtained was from an incomplete universe dug out from the chaos. There were saintly medicines and even divine medicines inside. It could be called the most powerful place of creation. Menging shook his head slightly and said with a smile, "We will know when we get there." Sun Dome and King Flash suddenly felt that it was a pity. They felt that they should have come to the ancient Tao right to comprehend. They could acutely sense that the Tao fruits here were very impressive because they could cause their great Tao marks to tremble. Their great Tao marks were the marks of the most powerful life ancient star. We might have arrived at our destination. Miser was very excited. He lowered his voice and said, "Even a part of the great Tao mountain contains shocking Tao fruit. It is very suitable for Tao integration." Su Yan's heartbeat also quickened. It was not because of Miser's words, nor was it because of Sun Dome and the others. It was because the dragon totem was burning. The temperature this time was very scorching and terrifying. This was the sign of a rare treasure. Chapter 419. They arrived at their destination one after another. The spatial path had disappeared without a trace. This was a sealed territory with an area of about 100 miles. There was a formation covering all 4 directions. Those were pieces of primal chaos precious bones that appeared in the space. It was very obvious that this was a great formation constructed from a set of primal chaos precious bones. People standing here gave off a feeling of being cut off from the rest of the world. Su Yan swept his eyes over it. This great formation was extremely powerful. It covered the sky and covered the earth, cutting through all living things. It was a type of great formation that was hidden. Even with his attainments in the Tao of formations, he couldn't find any clues. It was clear that the crepe myrtle sect had spent a lot of effort on this. Even if deities searched the boundless bipolar star, it would be difficult to dig out the location of the ancient Tao right. It was right in front of them. It was solemn and serene, and the aura of the great Tao covered the sky and earth. An ancient Tao right shone on its own, and a rain of great Tao light poured down. This place was hazy with immortal mist, and its aura was grand and simple. It was difficult to measure how long it had existed. The Tao right with an ancient aura wasn't big. The aura inside was divine, and the sound of the great Tao rumbled as it transmitted over. People seemed to see a vast great Tao river appear in front of them. The higher one's cultivation, the more they could sense the mysteriousness and terror of the ancient Tao right. Even Sun Dome and King Flash, these 2 renowned star domain supreme beings, felt like they were facing a grand universe when they faced the ancient Tao right at this moment. They were moved and turned pale. This ancient Tao right was truly astonishing. It was located in this territory, and it was like a hibernating great Tao true dragon. It gushed with auspicious multicolored light and scattered down a rain of great Tao light. It didn't seem powerful, but to them it was a bit suffocating. Why was this? It was because the power of the great Tao was considerably grand. It was like a condensed universe was floating here, releasing the aura of the great Tao of the universe. But how powerful was the ancient Tao right's Tao fruit exactly? They couldn't sense it at all. With their current strength, they hadn't reached the point where they could completely comprehend the great Tao imprints of the most powerful life forms, so they couldn't come to a conclusion. This is the ancient Tao right, so why can't I see any clues? A group of cultivators from the younger generation frowned. They carefully looked around, but didn't find anything different. They felt like this was an ordinary Pure Land. Menging smiled but did not say anything. Over the years, the number of geniuses who could obtain fortuitous encounters from the ancient Tao right was as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. It was true that the ancient Tao right was a place of fortune, but the Tao fruits here were not accessible to just anyone. One had to be extremely lucky to obtain them. The Sun Domes group wanted to go in and take a look, but when they got close, they shook their heads. They felt as if the ancient Tao right temple had disappeared and no longer existed in this world. They couldn't find a single trace of it. Without a doubt, only quasi-Tao realm cultivators could obtain the opportunity. Naturally, Dharma characteristic realm cultivators could do so as well. However, King Flash and the other two had all comprehended the great Tao and already had their own paths, so this ancient Tao Right Temple was not suitable for them. This was a place for Tao building. If the ancient Tao Right is really a part of the divine spiritual mountain range, this divine spiritual mountain range is really worth exploring. That's right. The atmosphere here is enough to prove the fortune of the divine spiritual mountain range. It was the Tao Right Temple of the gods during the primordial era. Although the divine spiritual mountain range has turned into a forbidden zone, the fortuitous encounters inside are also extraordinary. Some Grand Tao realm experts were discussing. It was a pity that the ancient Tao Right Temple was useless to them. Cultivators at the quasi-Tao realm or Dharma characteristic realm could not wait to rush in. However, most people were confused. It was as if they had come to an ordinary place, and could not sense a trace of the great Tao fluctuations. This made them very vexed. Were their talents that bad? Even if you failed, you don't have to care too much about it. An elder from the Crepe Myrtle sect stepped forward and explained, the fortuitous encounters of the ancient Tao Right Temple are also dependent on fate. Many heaven-defying people in the past were unable to obtain any fortuitous encounters. If you can't succeed, don't force it. In the ancient Tao Right Temple, thousands of people of the younger generation had gathered. Their backgrounds were not small. Among them, Zhu Yong was the most eye-catching. After all, he was a peerless genius ranked first on the potential roll and the son of the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. Whether it was his bloodline or talent, he was in a predetermined state. Su Yen looked around the ancient Tao Right Temple. His eyes were fixed on some strangely shaped stones on the ground. He felt that these stones were very special. They were like some kind of great Tao stone. They were simple and majestic. There were about a dozen stones of different sizes and shape. Some of the stones were very unusual. Some were completely purple, some were completely golden, and some were completely black. There's something strange about these stones. Su Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. He realized that Zhu Yong and the others were circling around these stones. The nearby cultivators who wanted to join in the fun were all pushed away by the powerful aura emanating from them. This caused them to be shocked and angry. These stones can't be the remnant stones from the Great Tao Mountain, right? Miser Rooster was puzzled. Su Yen carefully sensed the mysteries of heaven and earth. He also did not notice any changes in the immortal jade. However, as he sensed, Su Yen vaguely felt a trace of the great Tao fluctuations. He began to chase along the great Tao fluctuations. It was as if he was crossing through unfathomable spaces. This is leading me into the Tao. My bloodline is faintly boiling. Su Yan's eyes flashed with joy. When he opened his eyes, he realized that more than half of the people here were gone. He suddenly realized that an entire day had passed. Looks like Xia Kunlun didn't get anything. The cultivators from various clans outside were watching. Xia Kunlun was also an important person to pay attention to. Some shook their heads and could not help but look down on him. Xia Kunlun, if you can't do it, then leave. Come out and fight. Yin Xian snorted coldly. The surface of his body emitted a terrifying fluctuation. When he raised his hands and feet, his tyrannical physical strength was awakened. He was like a dragon. His strength was so strong that it caused the space to distort. This heaven and earth could not withstand his powerful strength. Su Yen looked at Yin Xian and sneered. Are you in a hurry to die? Do you only know how to talk big? Yin Xian released his aura. It was as if a black abyss was awakening. Rolling ferocious aura soared into the sky. It pierced through the sky. It was as if a black ocean was undulating and rumbling here. He was very terrifying. It was as if he was a demon god looking down on the world. Cold light shot out from his eyes as he stared at Xia Kunlun. The killing intent in his eyes was bone-piercing. Boom! Suddenly, a black stone shone as if it had turned into a great Tao stone. Its aura changed. It was especially majestic. It was as if a black sky was burning, emitting a grand and peerless fluctuation. This. Meng Ying's pupils suddenly shrank. The change was very sudden. Look, someone has activated the stone body's power in the ancient Tao field. It is rumored that this stone body is a Tao comprehension stone born from the great Tao. It has a heaven-defying effect. Everyone turned pale. Then, they saw Shui Guan actually step forward and sit cross-legged on the black stone body. It was as if he was sitting cross-legged on a condensed sky, on a black mountain. His divine might overflowed into the sky. The surrounding people were stunned. Who would have thought that the first one would be Shui Guan? Shui Guan, what a good one! Meng Ying was excited and laughed loudly. Good, good, good. In the past, how many people have been able to activate the power of the great Tao stone? I didn't think that Shui Guan would only spend a day to cause this black stone to shake. Now that he is sitting cross-legged on the Tao comprehension platform, he will obtain a great opportunity. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. No one would have thought that Shui Guan would be the first to cause the Tao stone to shake. Now, the Tao stone had even turned into a small Tao field. Once one sat cross-legged on the Tao stone, they could comprehend the great Tao of the ancient Tao field. What is this Tao stone? How come I didn't know that the Tao stone had such an effect? Some of the younger generation were angry. They didn't know that the Tao stone had such an effect. Don't panic. An expert berated. Everyone can comprehend the Tao stone. Don't blame anyone if you can't comprehend it. Even if your Tao stone is not ordinary, it is still very difficult to comprehend the Tao stone's power. These words were like a basin of cold water. Many people felt uncomfortable in their hearts. Wasn't this saying that they were inferior to Shui Guan? After all, their backgrounds were not small and they had the qualifications to prove their Tao in the future. Meng Ying and the others were very satisfied. From this, they could see how powerful Shui Guan was and how incomparable his talent was. I think that Shui Guan will most likely comprehend the Tao in the ancient Tao field. Someone said, this Shui Guan is too shocking. Once he steps into the great Tao realm, his name will definitely shake the universe. Moreover, Shui Guan has obtained the inheritance of an almighty. His future achievements will be great. That's right. I didn't expect him to be the first. I thought it would be the little ancestor of the ancestral hall. Someone looked at Zhu Yong and realized that he was still comprehending and had not restrained his mind. Could this be the difference? Or could it be that Zhu Yong was inferior to Shui Guan? Isn't it just a Tao stone? Is there a need for this? Tai Daniu's disdainful voice rang out, causing the entire ancient Tao field to fall silent. Meng Ying and the others had ugly expressions. Someone replied, Tai Daniu, every time the ancient Tao field opens, there is almost no one who can obtain the help of the Tao stone. Don't compare people from the past with me. Tai Daniu jumped onto a golden stone. It seemed to be burning, emitting tens of thousands of layers of golden light, illuminating the entire ancient Tao field. This stone was humming, as if a true dragon was awakening. For a moment Tai Daniu, who was golden all over, seemed abnormally divine. He had sunk into a state of comprehension. Damn! Some experts' faces twitched fiercely, and their faces darkened. A cow had obtained the help of the Tao stone? They felt that this was somewhat unreal. Shui Guan and Tai Daniu, aren't they two dark horses? I'm really shocked. Right now, in the ancient Tao field, Zhu Yong, Great Moon Saint Physique, and Xia Kunlun are all extremely talented. Could they be weaker than Shui Guan and Tai Daniu? How can they compare like this? I don't think Shui Guan is as strong as Zhu Yong. He is the son of the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. Guys, look. What is Xia Kunlun doing? The whole place was in an uproar. People saw Xia Kunlun appear in a corner. In front of him was a stone that was not in good condition. It could even be described as a cracked melon. It was completely yellow and was half the height of a person. Su Yan stroked the stone with excitement in his heart. The dragon totem was guiding this stone. Could this be the Stone King? Humph! Yin Xian sneered and said, Xia Kunlun, oh Xia Kunlun. You don't have the help of the Tao Stone, and you don't need to stare blankly at a broken stone. How laughable! Some of the older generation experts shook their heads. It was difficult to verify how long the ancient Tao rite had existed, and it had been opened countless times. Those that could be called great Tao stones were all lined up together. As for this broken stone, no one took it seriously. Ignorant fool! Su Yan looked at Yinluan and coldly said, If you don't understand, then shut up. You call me ignorant. Chapter 420. The surrounding people laughed. This stone was completely withered and yellow without any luster. Moreover, it was full of bumps and hollows. It was a crooked piece of broken stone that couldn't possibly turn into an enlightenment platform. This Yinluan was the strongest among the younger generation of the dark underworld. With his eyesight, how could he be wrong? Even Sun Dome and King Flash looked over and carefully inspected the broken stone. They shook their heads. What is Xia Kunlun doing? He's a young man after all. After all, he's too arrogant. Now that he saw Shui Guan and Tai Dainiu receiving the help of the Enlightenment Stone, he must be extremely unwilling and delusional to hope for a miracle. Miracle? Are there miracles in this world? Those of the older generation were all discussing, pointing and snickering. After all, Xia Kunlun was the disciple of a powerful expert. His identity was eye-catching. Although they didn't know whose disciple he was, it was said that he killed Hanbo with 3 punches. His combat strength was truly amazing. A stone that even our crepe myrtle sect couldn't see through is originally a useless object. No matter how great Xia Kunlun's identity is, he's still a young brat. It would be strange if he could see through it. Meng Ying also shook his head. Although it was hard to say how long this broken stone had been here, if their crepe myrtle sect couldn't identify it, it must be an ordinary object. Su Yan squatted in front of the broken stone and stroked the withered yellow stone with his palm. How could a stone that could make the dragon totem emit such light be an ordinary object? Brat, what kind of treasure is this? Tai Gongji was also suspicious. He secretly transmitted his voice. Did it trigger a reaction from your bloodline? Could it be a broken stone from the Great Tao Mountain? I really can't see anything wrong with this stone. Tai Gongji didn't know how strong the Great Tao Mountain was, but it was said that the Great Tao Mountain bore the strongest Tao fruit in history. Even if it was a broken stone, it should be a rare treasure. Perhaps it could be used to comprehend the remaining Tao fruit of the Great Tao Mountain. This Tao comprehension stone is probably a Stone King, Su Yan muttered in his heart. He immediately got up and sat down on the broken rock with his butt crossed. The moment he sat on it, Su Yan didn't notice any unusual changes. Su Yan pondered. When he first arrived at the ancient Tao Rite Temple, he sensed a trace of the will of the great Tao between heaven and earth. He followed the fluctuation of the will and finally noticed this broken stone. This stone was definitely not an ordinary object. As expected, Su Yan's emotions surged as he carefully comprehended the stone. He even didn't hesitate to circulate the Origin Sutra. The moment he circulated the sutra, the broken stone produced strands of strange fluctuations that surged up and enveloped Su Yan. This wondrous fluctuation did not belong to the ancient Tao Rite's Tao fruit. It was like a platform. The moment the platform's energy was stimulated, one's perception would soar by a large margin, perhaps even dozens of times. At this moment, Su Yan once again felt the wisp of power of the Great Path that guided him just now. He followed the power of the Great Path and recovered. His spiritual energy burned as he wanted to chase after the source, but the destination seemed to be thousands of miles away. It was too far away. When Su Yan followed the fluctuations of the Great Path, it was as if he had entered the sea of the Great Path. This caused Su Yan's emotions to surge. He didn't stay here but continued to sprint. During this process, Su Yen recalled some of his experiences on the snow mountain. In the past, he had tried his best to reach the dome and enter the core heritage site. But he couldn't do it back then. The current situation was similar to that, but this time, Su Yen was crossing the Sea of the Great Path. The path he crossed gradually changed from a stream to a great river. It gradually became grand and magnificent. The fluctuations of the Great Path had become much thicker, shocking Su Yen. This was because he discovered that the richness of the Great Path between heaven and earth was in no way inferior to that of a top Tao Right temple. Incredible! The ancient Tao Right temple is equivalent to a peerless Tao Right temple. But it requires a fortuitous encounter to excavate the heritage. Su Yen was overjoyed. As he continued to sprint, he saw an even vaster world. At the end of a river, there seemed to be a sea of the Great Path floating up and down. It seemed to be above the heavens, endless and boundless. Su Yen was very excited. This was definitely a terrifying heritage site. If he could merge with the source and merge with it, he would obtain a great opportunity that the world couldn't believe. The value of the ancient Tao Right temple had already surpassed that of a top Tao Right temple. It could be called a rare immortal ground. This broken stone is too amazing. Could it be that the destination will leap through time and space and cross into the Great Path Mountain? Or could it be that the Great Path Mountain is a void, but it truly exists? Only through it can one see the fruit of the Great Path Mountain? Su Yen pondered in his heart. He prepared to activate the power of the broken stone with all his strength and cross to the peak. The ancient Tao Right temple was quiet. The people around were dumbfounded. Xia Kunlun really dared to sit on it. A powerful disciple sitting on a broken stone? On the other hand, the black stone body that Shui Guan sat on was blazing terrifyingly. Vast fluctuations of the Great Path spread out, setting off Shui Guan as if he was the reincarnation of a deity. It was shocking. There was a sharp contrast between the two, leaving the people around speechless. What was Xia Kunlun doing? Don't you find it embarrassing? Yinluan had an unforgiving attitude. He put his hands behind his back and looked down at Su Yen. He shouted, "I don't even want to kill you. Xia Kunlun, I think you're just putting on an act. How dare you call yourself a powerful disciple?" Su Yen woke up and frowned slightly. He raised his eyelids and looked at Yinluan. He said, "I say, can you shut up? Do you have to walk backwards before you'll shut up?" Hearing this, Yinluan was stunned. Then he looked up to the sky and laughed. Xia Kunlun, I really overestimated you. Since you don't have the strength and talent, get out here and stand on a broken stone. What are you showing off for?" Buzz. Suddenly, the bumpy broken stone shone. Although it was not bright, the stone body seemed to be dyed with a layer of colorful immortal light. It was dazzling. This stone seemed to have turned into a great Tao platform. The power it emitted increased by 100 times, which made Su Yen excited. With the help of this enlightenment platform, it would not be a problem to enter the strongest inheritance space. The atmosphere was a little strange. The gathered cultivators looked left and right. Some people's faces were red. This was too much of a slap in the face. They were mocking Xia Kunlun just now, but now, a broken stone could do it. Even Sun Dome and King Flash were a little surprised. They did not realize that this broken stone could be used as an enlightenment platform. Some people looked at Yin Xian and found that his face was trembling. Dali clenched his fist. He was trying his best to suppress the anger in his heart. Even Meng Ying was a little stunned and incredulous. This broken stone was an enlightenment platform? When you see me in the future, respectfully call me Big Brother, and I will consider not letting you turn around and leave. Su Yan's gaze turned towards Yin Xian. Su Yan's mocking words caused Yinluan's heart and lungs to tremble. He was so angry that his face turned ashen. This was too embarrassing. Recalling his firm tone just now, Yin Luan's face turned red and white. The people around did not dare to make a sound. The scene was a little quiet. It's just a broken stone. It can't compare to other enlightenment stones. What's the use of it? Yin Xian said angrily. Since you said so, remember to walk backwards when you see me in the future. Su Yan's cold reply made Yin Xian feel depressed. He could not spit it out no matter how hard he tried. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. He had said those words before, and now he could not refute. Yin Xian was furious. The expressions of the people around were very interesting. Yin Xian had lost a lot of face. They did not expect this broken stone to be useful. However, compared to Shui Guan and Tai Daniu's enlightenment stones, wasn't it too shabby? Su Yan was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. The moment he closed his eyes, his spiritual will soared. He almost had the power of a god. He followed the power of the great Tao and pursued it again. From a stream to a river to a river, the great Tao that Su Yan came in contact with began to stack layer by layer. It became more and more terrifying. Now, Su Yan was like crossing a river of great Tao. Dong dong! He heard the sound of Tao. It shook the sky and shook the stars. Every sound of the bell was enough to enlighten people. Su Yan was silent inside. He felt that the great Tao that he came in contact with was as vast as a rootless starry sky. It was majestic, boundless, and grand. Su Yan's emotions surged. As long as he could master such a great Tao, he would definitely be a peak expert in the quasi-Tao realm. This was enough for him to comprehend. Especially now that Su Yan had the help of this broken stone, his comprehension speed had increased by 100 times. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. It was equivalent to saving 100 years of time. If he could really comprehend the great Tao River that he saw now, he would definitely be able to become a powerful great Tao expert in the future. I think I should comprehend it for a while before rushing to the peak. Su Yan muttered in his heart. He was immersed in the great Tao River and carefully comprehended it. The speed of his comprehension was too fast. It was like he was riding a rocket. He advanced by leaps and bounds. Many unsolved great Tao profundities were quickly grasped by Su Yan. It's simply a cheating device. Su Yan was shocked. Was this the charm of the great Tao Mountain? Among the 9 great celestial mountains, was the great Tao Mountain the strongest? Incredible, the extreme Yin Saint physique has also obtained a Tao comprehension stone. The whole place was in an uproar. 3 geniuses had appeared in succession. Now, Yun had also been recognized by a crimson Tao comprehension stone. She sat cross-legged on the Tao platform. Her snow-white skin and forehead were shining. She began to merge with the great Tao of the ancient Tao field. Ha ha ha, good good good. The group of elders from the crepe myrtle sect were pleasantly surprised. After all, the saint physique that they had taken a fancy to could even touch the fortunes of the ancient Tao field. This meant that Yun's potential was astonishing. However, these dark horses appeared one after another. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. They couldn't help but wonder if the Golden Age had really arrived. Who is this person? Many people were shocked. A man in luxurious clothes with a domineering aura had also obtained the Tao Comprehension Stone's approval. Yuan sat cross-legged on a crimson stone. His battle physique was shining. It was very blazing and was shaped like a sun. How can this be? Zhu Yong of the Ancestral Hall didn't obtain it? That's right, how can this be? This is too unreasonable. Some people's expressions were not normal. Zhu Xing's expression was somewhat ugly. They felt that this was an insult to Zhu Yong. It was fine if it was Shui Guan and Xia Kunlun. After all, their backgrounds were astonishing. But what about Tai Daniu and Yuan? How could they obtain the Tao Comprehension Stone? That's right, are Xia Kunlun and Zhu Yong weak? What do you mean by that? Xia Kunlun clearly obtained it. Someone frowned. What's the use? Can't you see that the stone isn't powerful enough? The power it emits is too weak. Someone shook his head and looked at the area where Xia Kunlun was. Although the stone was shining, compared to the stone body occupied by Shui Guan and the others, it was clearly not enough. The difference was too great. It's just a blind cat meeting a dead mouse. Yin Xian said disdainfully, what's the use? He can't merge with it. If he really did, then he would be a fool. Why do I feel that we won't be able to stay here for long? On the other hand, Su Yan was secretly surprised. Although he had only stayed for a short period of time, Su Yan felt as though 10 years had passed. His spiritual will was filled with the aura of the great Tao. There was a kind of aura of someone who had achieved the Tao. Let's go, the Stone King is up to you. Su Yan roared in his heart. The moment he channeled the Origin Sutra to the extreme, the broken stone awakened. It was like a burning immortal stone. Its blazing light overflowed into the sky and illuminated the firmament. The broken Stone King was like a great Tao immortal stone that had turned into the Tao comprehension stone. Su Yan's forehead burned with a spiritual flame. The moment it gushed out, it pierced through the sea of the great Tao. It was as if it had rushed into prehistoric times and crossed into an ancient universe. Chapter 421. Light shot into the heavens from the ancient Tao Right Temple. Strands of immortal light were released, gushing into the clouds, piercing through the sky dome. The grand formation protecting the ancient Tao Right Temple began to distort. This grand formation couldn't seal the energy, and it was also penetrated. 1. The expert guarding the ancient Tao field was awakened. She immediately took action, controlling this grand formation that covered the sky and blocked out the sun. This was to prevent the ancient Tao field's changes from spreading out. After all, once these changes spread out, the ancient Tao field's location would be exposed. Even though the grand formation had sealed the sudden burst of light, the interior of the grand formation was still dazzling, and auspicious signs filled the sky. A piece of broken stone was shining. It was too blazing, not like a piece of stone, but rather like a heavenly sun that was burning here. The broken stone's aura was sacred and dignified, and it was also majestic and peerless. It was like a great Tao platform that had not moved since ancient times. It spewed out a rain of light and was surrounded by immortal light. The figure sitting on the Tao platform was like a divine king, standing high above the 9 heavens. At this moment, Su Yan seemed to have turned into a person who had achieved the Tao. He borrowed the power of the broken stone to discover the land of inheritance hidden in the ancient Tao field to the extreme. He forcibly crossed the river of the great Tao and headed towards a condensed universe of the great Tao. This scene stunned everyone present. It was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. They felt that it was inconceivable, because this broken stone was too terrifying. Compared to this broken stone, the wondrous stones in the ancient Tao field seemed a bit weak. They were like small stars arranged next to an ancient planet of life. This difference was obvious. The Tao platform occupied by Shui Guan and the others was not on the same level as this broken stone. How is this possible? Yin Xian was enraged. Killing intent and anger surged in his body. Yin Xian was indignant. His entire body rippled with terrifying light. His strength was unquestionable, and his physical strength could look down on those of the same level. But now, he really couldn't do anything to Xia Kunlun, and he had been humiliated again and again. No matter how good Yin Xian's mentality was, he was about to go crazy. His eyes widened in anger, and killing intent surged in his pupils. But this was the ancient Tao field, and he really didn't dare to use force here. He even dared to force his way in and attack Xia Kunlun. Sun Dome and King Flash, the 2 supreme star domain experts, looked at the ancient Tao field, at Su Yan, and even at the broken stone. They were shocked. Their hearts. After all, these 2 were star domain experts of the 2 strongest ancient planets of life. And their control of the great Tao. Something strange had happened to the ancient Tao Right Temple. A crappy stone that no one had ever touched was actually emitting this kind of light. Moreover, it was helping an outsider. This made Meng Ying and the others' expressions change. This matter was a bit serious. What should we do? An elder of the crepe myrtle sect had an unfriendly expression, a cold light faintly spreading in his eyes. Is it the inheritance of an almighty? Meng Ying's expression was also uncertain. As the first elder of the crepe myrtle sect, all the nearby experts of the crepe myrtle sect had to listen to her orders. Of course, they had some doubts about Xia Kunlun's identity. Although Xia Kunlun had some doubts about Xia Kunlun's identity, Meng Ying was very sure that Su Yan's master should be an almighty. Back then, when he came near the purple myrtle segmentum, that terrifying technique was unforgettable. Even if Su Yan wasn't the disciple of an almighty, he was definitely related to an almighty. For an unknown. Meng Ying didn't know what to do. After all, this was a matter of great importance. Did the succession really appear? Even the sect master would be shocked if he knew. The blurry figure guarding the ancient Tao field. Her aura became even more terrifying. Her figure was hazy as she sat cross-legged in the chaos. Without a doubt, this was definitely a great figure of the Purple Myrtle sect. A god-level expert. For such an existence to personally guard the ancient Tao field, it was clear that the Purple Myrtle sect valued the ancient Tao field. The younger generation speculated a little and determined that the inheritance of the ancient Tao field was not simple. The inheritance that Xia Kunlun obtained was probably the strongest inheritance. This was a bit shocking. But was the Purple Myrtle sect willing to let the inheritance leak? Don't disturb him. The guardian of the ancient Tao field sent out a thought. Immediately return to the sect, and let the sect master come out. Tell him that the inheritance has appeared. What? Even the sect master is concerned? Meng Ying's heart trembled. The sect master of the Purple Myrtle sect was a famous expert in the universe. For her to pay attention to an inheritance, there must be some secrets hidden. Meng Ying hurriedly left, not daring to delay for a moment. This place was quite a distance away from the Purple Myrtle sect. The one who was the most annoyed was definitely Zhu Yong. Xia Kunlun and Shuiguan were fine. After all, they had great backgrounds and were related to almighty experts. But what about Tai Dainiu and Yi Yuan? Whether it was Su Yan or Yi Si Yun, the blood of the burial region flowed in their bodies. It was also because of the help of the bloodline power that they were able to smoothly comprehend the inheritance of the ancient Tao field. This was a rare opportunity. These guys are going to make a killing. Even Tai Rooster was envious. If the ancient Tao field was really related to the Great Tao Mountain, this was a terrifying opportunity. The Great Tao Mountain was known as the mountain that gathered the strongest Tao fruits in the universe. It hid endless Great Tao. If one could fuse with the Great Tao and comprehend some Great Tao power, cultivating to the Quasi-Tao realm would be too easy. The Great Tao of heaven and earth that one could grasp in the Quasi-Tao realm would be absolutely terrifying. It could be said that these four terrifying geniuses had been created. But what shocked Tai Rooster the most was still Shuiguan. He suspected that this Shuiguan had hidden his strength very deeply. Even Zhu Yong could not compare to Shuiguan. This person was definitely a formidable opponent for Su Yan in the future. What kind of inheritance will Xia Kunlun obtain? This place was in an uproar. In ancient history, there was an almighty expert who said that being able to take this step was related to the ancient Tao field. This kind of opportunity caused all the major peak forces to be envious. They were all guessing whether Xia Kunlun would obtain this kind of opportunity. 1. Su Yan's body shone on its own. Because it was covered by the aura of the broken stone, it was difficult for outsiders to see his specific strength. There was a faint aura of the Great Tao emanating from his body, although it was hazy. But layer after layer of the aura of the Great Tao emanated terrifying fluctuations. A majestic aura spread out like an illusory giant. It was similar to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. However, this kind of lawful embodiment of heaven and earth was imbued with the power of the great Tao. This was somewhat terrifying. If he said that the power of the transcendence realm was formless, then now that his body was filled with the power of the great Tao, one could imagine how strong his combat strength was. Therefore, the gap between the quasi-Tao realm and the transcendence realm was very large. Once one stepped into this realm, it could be said that a golden path had been opened. Su Yan's spirit and will burned. Guided by the power of the broken stone, Su Yan's spirit entered the great void. It was as if he had escaped into the vast cosmos and entered the celestial dome of the 9 heavens. In the face of such a majestic great Tao inheritance, Su Yan was as insignificant as an ant. Now that the ant had rushed up, it was as if he had barged into a condensed universe. The heavenly sound of the great Tao filled the sky, rumbling endlessly. This is the great Tao mountain? Su Yan was shocked and alarmed. He had come into contact with a corner of the inheritance, and it was already majestic enough. It was even more majestic than the Divine King's imprint. This was equivalent to a supreme sacred land, one of the most terrifying Tao grounds in the world. He instantly confirmed the truth of the rumors. If he could comprehend it, it wouldn't be surprising for him to become a supreme being. The inheritance in the ancient Tao grounds was far beyond Su Yan's expectations. If it's the great Tao mountain, how strong was the ancestor who created it? Su Yan murmured in his heart. His heart was filled with admiration and passion. This was the creation left behind by the ancestor of the burial realm. It had been passed down for millions of years. Each of the 9 great celestial mountains should have a different effect. If the snow mountain on Earth was one of the 9 great celestial mountains, then it should be related to the path of the physical body. The heavenly mountain on the Big Dipper should be related to time and space, or even the path of time. This was the strongest spatial power, related to time and space. It was simply an inheritance left behind by the existence that created the universe. And the great Tao mountain was related to the great Tao. Comprehending a part of it was enough to benefit a lifetime. Su Yan was like a tiny ant looking up at all of this. Because of the power of the broken stone, Su Yan's comprehension speed was extremely fast. In addition to the previous contact and comprehension of the great Tao, Su Yan's understanding of the great Tao had reached a profound level. But this time, the Tao fruit he came into contact with was too shocking and unfathomable. It was like an immortal abyss of the great Tao lying here, making Su Yan feel a little suffocated. Buzz! His illusory body glowed as he sat inside, looking solemn and dignified. Su Yan opened his mind to feel the changes. As time passed, Su Yan could see more and more. Time flew slowly. He didn't know how many years had passed, but it felt like 10 years. Inside, Su Yan could not feel the flow of time at all. It was like a frozen spacetime. His body became increasingly hot, just like a sun that illuminated the world. The light also filled this condensed universe. Su Yan's body became increasingly hot. Gradually, Su Yan had a kind of mentality that looked down on heaven and earth. He grasped a kind of power, as if he was standing on earth and looking down on the entire universe. It was a very scary mentality. This was given by the great Tao. Of course, only the world's most powerful land of inheritance could give it to him. He was like a person who had attained the Tao and looked down on the entire universe. Finally, one day, Su Yan saw the whole picture and the whole world. But this world was like a mountain. He saw a corner of the magnificent world clearly. It was as grand and vast as the universe. It was really scary. Body like the universe. Su Yan's eyes shone with wisdom as he said loudly, "I am the universe. Tao is all things, the sun, the moon, all things." Body like the starry sky. In terms of mastering the initial sutra, he had crossed an important step. At the moment when he entered this stage, Su Yan's every cell was trembling with excitement. There was a kind of melting and merging with the great Tao and the universe as one. What was this? This was Tao integration. It was like attaining the Tao in this universe and obtaining everything in this universe. He was about to grow to such a powerful domain. Would that be the end of this person? Boom. Suddenly, Su Yan saw a person. The world he saw changed because he comprehended an important chapter of the initial sutra. It caused his cultivation to increase, and the world he saw also changed. Su Yan saw a person who filled the immortal sky and looked down on time. He was like the Tao, suppressing all things in the universe until they lost their brilliance. Chapter 422. Su Yan observed. It was as if he was looking at a chapter of the initial sutra. The body was like the universe. This was explained from the opening chapter of the initial sutra, and it also seemed to be the ultimate goal. Now that Su Yan had cultivated to this realm, he had already come into contact with the great Tao. In other words, the cultivation of the initial sutra had reached a crucial stage, and the strongest era of the initial sutra was about to arrive. Su Yan was looking forward to stepping into the great Tao realm and evolving the power of the universe. How powerful would that be? Su Yan observed this blurry figure. He was like a condensed universe. His blood was like a galaxy, his bones were like mountains, and his organs were like mountain ranges. Everything was like a condensed universe that filled the world. Although this blurry figure remained motionless, Su Yan could feel that he could easily release an aura that could destroy the world. He could easily collapse the sea of stars. How powerful was this? How unparalleled was this? He looked down on the universe and looked down on time. He was truly an invincible giant. 1. As he watched, Su Yan's bones and blood boiled. This blurry figure seemed to be constructed from scriptures, causing the initial sutra in his body to boil and circulate violently. He entered a state of enlightenment. It could even be said that he was transforming. The speed of enlightenment was too fast. With the help of the broken stone, Su Yan's understanding of the great Tao skyrocketed. His entire body emitted a blurry light of the great Tao, as if a person who had attained the Tao was sitting here chanting scriptures. The place where Xia Kunlun is in seclusion is too blurry. I can't see clearly, but I can faintly hear the sound of scriptures. These scriptures are very extraordinary. I can't understand them at all. Is this person trying to integrate the Tao here and step into the great Tao realm? The people in the surroundings were discussing. No one thought that Xia Kunlun was still in the transcendence realm. After all, he had killed Hanbo with 3 punches. What if he was in the transcendence realm? Who would believe it? Although Su Yan's physical body had already reached this level, he had grasped the great Tao of heaven and earth. There was naturally no suspense about his strength multiplying. The group of elders from the crepe myrtle sect had uncertain expressions. Although they wanted to rope in Xia Kunlun, they weren't so generous as to hand over the mysterious inheritance. Who knew what kind of opportunity Xia Kunlun had obtained in the ancient Tao field? They did not expect that after so many years, there was still an undiscovered inheritance hidden in the ancient dojo. As for the enlightenment platform that Shui Guan and the others had obtained, many people had obtained it over the years. However, this was the first time that the enlightenment stone that Su Yan had excavated had appeared. Now that it was obtained by Su Yan, it would be strange if the crepe myrtle cult's elders could remain calm. However, they did not dare to rashly interrupt him. It was too dangerous if there was an accident during the enlightenment process. If Xia Kunlun died here, crepe myrtle sect would be in big trouble. The great moon Saint Physique will probably take this opportunity to enter the quasi-Tao realm, right? The atmosphere of the great Tao permeated the ancient Tao field. There were still many cultivators who were unwilling to give up and wanted to try their luck. Currently, only a few of them had received help from the Tao Enlightenment Stone. Yi Si Yun, Tai Baokai, and Yi Yuan were all in the Transcendence realm. This time, the ancient Tao right would definitely be able to help them step into the quasi-Tao realm. After all, if this enlightenment sacred ground really failed, the chances of them stepping into the quasi-Tao realm in the future would be very slim. There were also people who were paying attention to Shuiguan. Someone whispered, "Do you guys think that Shuiguan will take this opportunity to step into the great Tao realm? His foundation is already terrifying enough. It will be very difficult for him to continue growing in the quasi-Tao realm." Who knows? However, I feel that Shuiguan will return to the Big Dipper constellation and step into the Great Tao realm in the Big Dipper constellation. He will become the new Big Dipper Supreme. At this point, the atmosphere here was a little cold. When the Big Dipper constellation was mentioned, people could not help but think of Su Yen. I wonder where that young overlord called Su Yen is now. I heard that the Ancestral Hall's people are going crazy looking for him. Only heaven knows. Someone lowered his voice and said, "Zhu Liang's branch can be said to be the outer elders of the Ancestral Hall. Too many of them have died in his hands. Even the Purple Sun Tao ground collapsed. Zhu Liang was exhausted while he was still alive. This is truly unimaginable. How strong is this Su Yen now? It is said that he is the rising star of the Burial Region's race. There is no need to say much about his strength. However, isn't he too bold? Is he not afraid of dying without a burial ground? Sigh, it is said that the Burial Region's race was at the peak of their prosperity in the ancient era. It is a pity that the current situation of the universe has nothing to do with the Burial Region's race. It is too difficult for them to rise. Who can be on equal footing with the strongest life form ancient star's young overlord? The huge storm that had happened half a year ago was still lingering. Now they could not help but feel apprehensive as they discussed. Although they did not know the inside story, the collapse of the Purple Sun Tao field had shaken the entire universe and all the major races. However, Su Yen seemed to have evaporated into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. This matter had become a mystery. Buzz. Suddenly, the figure sitting cross-legged on the broken stone began to emit a blazing aura. It was as if an ant had transformed into a giant and suddenly poured out in full force. Even with the obstruction of the broken stone's domain, the aura still seeped out. These wisps of aura were somewhat indistinct, but it was indeed frightening. It was like an awakened abyss of the great Tao, causing the nearby cultivators who were searching for opportunities to feel an enormous pressure. Even their breathing became heavy. This change shocked the surrounding people, and they all turned their gazes to Xia Kunlun. Why do I feel that Xia Kunlun has not stepped into the quasi-Tao realm? Someone's words were astonishing and caused a great commotion. They felt that this was inconceivable. He had not stepped into the quasi-Tao realm, but he had already sacrificed the drought demon? How was this possible? The expressions of the experts of the older generation outside the ancient Tao field changed slightly. Their gazes were focused on Su Yen. Although they could not see through this person, the commotion caused by Su Yan's breakthrough was great. However, no matter how great the commotion was, they could still sense that this great Tao power was indistinct and illusory. What was this? This was the embodiment of the quasi-Tao realm, a great Tao that had yet to materialize. How is this possible? They found it hard to believe. If Xia Kunlun had just stepped into the quasi-Tao realm, then how great was his potential? What kind of shocking battle prowess had he accumulated in the Transcendence realm? Zhu Xing was tongue-tied. He could not believe that Xia Kunlun had previously been in the Transcendence realm. Rumble! The commotion caused by Su Yan's breakthrough was even more shocking. His flesh shell was blazing like a great sun, and it was as if a small, condensed universe was shining. The life spring in his body produced indistinct great Tao power. Su Yen was merging with the Tao, and he was merging with the world he saw. At this moment, Su Yen had become a part of the ancient Tao field. Thus, the great Tao power awakened in his body was extremely terrifying. It was as deep as the universe and the abyss. Heavens! Everyone present cried out in alarm as they saw Xia Kunlun throw out piles of heavenly essence stones. He took out a total of 5,000 kilograms of heavenly essence stones, and there were even jars of various limited-grade treasured liquids. There was even a lot of heavenly earth source plasma. In short, it was as if a treasure vault had been opened. Colorful divine light shot out in all directions. As Su Yen recovered and breathed, all the pores on his body opened up. As he breathed, strands of essence divine energy penetrated his body. How much potential does he have to need so many resources to break through? The disciple of a supreme being is too rich. He has all kinds of limited-grade resources. Xia Kunlun is indeed a supreme being's disciple. The younger ones were shocked. Some were envious and some were jealous. After all, this batch of resources was too precious. Some of them could not be described with money. Just the aura of the great Tao alone was enough for Su Yen to break through the levels. At the moment when Su Yen was breaking through, it was as if he was being pressed down by a huge mountain. Terrifying shackles bound Su Yan's entire body, making him feel like he was about to explode. This was a pressure that originated from the great Tao. Similarly, when breaking through in the rare Tao field, the suppression was also incomparably shocking. Su Yen rejoiced that his physical body was strong. Otherwise, it would be too difficult to break through. Under the support of this boundless foundation, Su Yen rapidly became stronger. His body was filled with boundless vitality that penetrated his life's spring. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of scriptures was transmitted from his body. Every syllable was like hammering the starry sky, accompanied by the release of his foundation. Terrifying surges came one after another. Su Yen was almost facing the strongest suppression of the great Tao of the universe in history. Under such terrifying pressure, he released all of his foundation and fiercely broke through. He was like an ant that had been suppressed on the ground. He became stronger and stronger bit by bit, rising up bit by bit. The spectators were dumbstruck. The experts of the older generation also felt that it was inconceivable. How strong were these shackles? Why did they feel that Xia Kunlun's breakthrough was dozens of times more difficult than theirs? Even the countless resources were rapidly depleted. And Su Yen took out batch after batch, stunning Zhu Sheng. He was too rich. He had taken out at least 30,000 kilograms of celestial essence stones. Adding all kinds of limited-grade resources, he had already taken out 100,000 kilograms of celestial essence stones. Of course, no matter how terrifying his foundation was, it couldn't compare to Su Yan's potential. Some people felt that he was already terrifying enough. His body was blurry and frightening. He was like a young divine king hibernating in the abyss, climbing up step by step. An abyssal aura of the great Tao rushed out as Su Yen swallowed the boundless foundation. In the end, everyone present was in an uproar. The material Su Yen took out made even the masters of the universe jealous. Saint-grade heaven and earth source plasma. Countless people were breathing heavily. Even Zhu Yong was astonished. How many forces in the world could take out such an item? But Su Yen had grasped it and even directly took it out and swallowed it into his stomach. Su Yen roared toward the sky. Under the baptism of the saint-grade heaven and earth source plasma, his aura blazed by a great deal. Even his blood was boiling. A familiar feeling that he hadn't felt in a long time attacked his body. His bloodline was being nourished by the saint-grade heaven and earth source plasma. Under the energy of the quasi-Tao realm evolution, his blood essence that had been hibernating all this time suddenly surged violently, emitting the rumbling sound of a tsunami. This was the change in his bloodline. The power of the bloodline essence of the burial region was now being stimulated. However, in the boiling process of this originally bright red blood, all kinds of mysterious auras pervaded. At times, golden light would flourish, and at times, purple gas would rise. At times, blue light would be like the sea, and at times, green gas would fill the sky. Chapter 423. In the vast universe, the ancestral star zone was the most powerful star zone that was recognized by all the races in the star sea. The progenitor was an ancient life star that had existed for a long time. It was known as the most powerful ancient life star. There wasn't just a single great Tao dragon vein here. It was as if there was a universe ancestral vein buried underground, gushing with auspicious multicolored light. The great Tao aura here was so thick that it covered the sky. It was as if an independent spacetime was floating here. The ancestral land of the ancestral palace was boundless. Every palace was engraved with profound great Tao heavenly traces. These buildings were almost immortal and had existed for millions of years. Archaic divine mountains were built one after another. Every divine mountain surged with a tide of life essence that scattered down. Auspicious light shot out in all directions, nourishing the great earth. These divine mountains were all extraordinary. Every divine mountain was a type of Tao field that contained an abyss-like great Tao aura. The territory was vast and suffused with a boundless aura. Dong dong! The sound of war drums echoed throughout the ancestral land, causing divine light to rush into the heavens from within the ancestral palace. Killing intent surged, penetrating the heavens and submerging a corner of the vast starry sky. For a moment, a corner of the progenitor seemed to be burning. Killing intent overflowed into the heavens as great waves rose and fell. Experts walked out from the palaces one after another. Generals rushed out from the Tao palaces. All kinds of terrifying auras pervaded the air. Giant archaic beasts roared like thunder, shaking the great mountains. They were all awakened by the war drums. This was a summon to join the battle. Honglong. A certain immortal palace flourished with divine light. An elder walked out from within. Although he was in his twilight years, when his eyes opened and closed, the scene of the destruction of great stars in the universe appeared. It was truly intimidating. Deputy Yang Bo. Outside the immortal palace, experts gathered. Ancient beasts roared and battleships filled the sky. Elite troops attacked and paid their respects in unison. The experts were in awe. Among the 5 deputy hall masters of the ancestral palace, Zhu Liang had fallen. Among the remaining 4, Zhu Yangbo was the oldest and had the highest seniority. He was an expert from the same generation as the ancestral palace's ancient ancestor. However, he had obtained a great opportunity in the primal chaos ruins and swallowed a treasure not inferior to divine medicine. It extended his lifespan and allowed him to live until now. He was at least 10,000 years old, even older than the old Star Lord of the Big Dipper clan. Among the 4 hall masters of the ancestral palace, Zhu Yangbo was the oldest and Zhu Qing was the youngest. However, Zhu Qing was the strongest. The ancestral hall's ancient ancestor treated Zhu Qing as the next generation's successor. Zhu Qing would only come out of seclusion if something big happened in the ancestral hall. Of course, Zhu Yangbo, who had the highest seniority, would not casually take action. But now that Zhu Yangbo had appeared, something big must have happened. Bipolar star. An aged voice resounded through the air like the rumbling wheels of history. Zhu Yangbo's aura was extremely world-shaking. He had received news that traces of the burial region's bloodline had appeared. Their destination was the bipolar star. Reporting to Vice Palace Master, someone stepped forward and said, "In the bipolar star, the divine spiritual mountain range is about to open. I just received the news." An outer sect elder shouted coldly, "In the bipolar star, the remnant bloodline of the burial realm bloodline has attracted the attention of the blood altar. He should be a big fish that is even scarier than Su Dalong." What? A bloodline that is even more powerful than his? Everyone's expression changed. A fish that was even scarier than Su Dalong? Could it be that the old leader of the burial realm bloodline had recovered his vitality? They felt that this was impossible. Although 100 years had passed, the ancestral palace's ancient ancestor had been completely exhausted in that battle. The old leader's situation was definitely worse than the ancestral palace's ancient ancestor. He wouldn't easily crawl back up. Of course, we can't deny that it might be a clansman of the Burial Realm bloodline. An outer sect elder said coldly, even if we have to overturn the entire bipolar star, we have to capture that person. Life or death. Honglong. This broken earth region's killing intent overflowed into the heavens. Iron spear energy spread out. Ancient beasts roared at the sky. A terrifying aura spread out as if the gates of hell had been opened. More than half a year ago, Purple Sun Dao Right had collapsed. Zhu Liang had fallen and more than 20 young disciples had died. This was an unbearable pain for the ancestral palace. They had been suppressing this anger in their hearts until now. Now that the enemy's traces had appeared, they all released their terrifying killing intent. I hope it's number 5. Capturing him is more worth it than killing the old leader of the Burial Realm bloodline. Zhu Yangba's eyes shot out killing intent. This was a mission issued by the ancient ancestor 100 years ago. An important character of the Burial Realm bloodline had appeared in the world, but they still couldn't lock onto the target. Previously, Su Yan's appearance made them feel that they might have found the target. As long as they could capture Su Yan alive, everything would be clear, including the secrets hidden in the demonic mist. That was why Zhu Yangbua had come out of seclusion and personally headed to the bipolar star to capture Su Yan. A large number of ancestral palace experts had set out for the bipolar star. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, they had brought all kinds of secret treasures. They could definitely seal the entire bipolar star. The current bipolar star. It was a place where experts gathered. For the treasures of the Divine Mountain Range, almost all the powerful races of the universe had arrived. It was as lively as it could be. The changes in the ancient Dao field were also eye-catching. The blood in Su Yan's body was boiling. His bloodline could be said to be very special. There were gold, red, blue, green. There seemed to be 9 colored blood flowing in his body. Although the color looked dim, there were already signs of it. 9 different colors of blood? No one would believe it. There were all kinds of strange bloodlines in the world, but 9 colored bloodlines were unheard of. However, the 9 colored blood flowing in Su Yan's body was like a combination of 9 different bloodlines. The aura of human treasures transmitted from the blood made Su Yan's body much stronger. However, he felt that the foundation needed to awaken the 9 colored blood was difficult to measure. It might be possible for him to step into the great Dao realm in the future. Why is it 9 colored blood? Su Yan muttered in his heart. Generally speaking, bloodlines were inherited from their parents. Of course, there were also special situations. It could be that they had eaten some kind of treasure, causing their bloodline to mutate. It could also be that they had awakened the bloodline of their ancestors. There were also experts with extraordinary means who could transform the bloodline in their body, turning it into divine blood. However, Su Yan didn't expect that his bloodline was 9 colored blood. Although the color was very dim, he felt that if his bloodline was strong enough, his blood would completely turn into 9 colored blood. Buzz. Su Yan's chest glowed, hazy with the light of the great Tao. There seemed to be a small person sitting cross-legged in his heart, but it also seemed like it didn't exist. It was very blurry, accompanied by space-time light rain. This was Su Yan's natural mystical ability. Now that quasi-Dao power was being nurtured in his body, it caused the nurturing of his natural mystical ability to reach a crucial moment. As his chest rose and fell, flames surged, and the aura of time faintly appeared. Su Yan's mind sank into the imprint. He was in a daze as if he sensed the flow of time. Could it be? Su Yan felt that it was inconceivable. The natural mystical ability that was being nurtured was related to time? If that was really the case, then it would be terrifying. He could control the power of time, which was also the power of time. What kind of world-shaking mystical ability was this? In any case, Su Yan had never heard of this mystical ability. Just thinking about it made him realize that this power was boundlessly terrifying. Even the Divine King probably wasn't qualified to come into contact with it. If it was really related to time and time, then it would definitely be an invincible mystical ability secret technique that belonged exclusively to Su Yan. He observed carefully and discovered that if he wanted to nurture this mystical ability, his cultivation had to step into the great Tao realm. In fact, he even needed to obtain a large amount of qi of great Tao to supplement this mystical ability and use it as nourishment to complete its evolution. If I can really create a natural mystical ability that is related to time, even if I have to go bankrupt, it will be worth it, Su Yan thought to himself. He didn't waste any more time and continued to break through. Su Yan's aura continuously fused with the ancient Tao field and even merged with the Tao. He discovered that the ancient Tao field was very special and concealed a terrifying power that belonged to the power of great Tao. However, this kind of power could only be excavated by using these broken stones. In that case, were these stones the remnant stones of the great Tao mountain? Boom! Su Yan's aura flourished once again, like a huge dragon that was awakening from its slumber. The blurry aura of great Tao covered the sky and covered the sun, penetrating through the sky. His life spring seemed to have transformed into a blurry spring of great Tao that was unfathomable. It chanted Tao sounds and rumbled. At the moment when the initial scripture was circulating, Su Yan's limbs and bones shone with dazzling light. His life spring seemed to have transformed into the flames of great Tao, and his corporeal body was like a furnace. At the moment when the great Tao heavenly furnace appeared, Su Yan's aura was completely different. His might shook the universe, and he could easily erupt with super-powerful battle prowess. This was the trend of nurturing an astonishing battle physique. At this moment, Su Yan was like a great Tao realm cultivator. This is heaven-defying. Tai Rooster was the closest to Su Yan. The people outside couldn't see it clearly, but Tai Rooster realized that when Su Yan circulated the scripture, it was like a great Tao body was standing here. His battle prowess was astonishing, and his divine might was surging. How many resources did he absorb? Why do I feel like he has stepped into the great Tao realm? Xia Kunlun's current domain shouldn't be at the great Tao realm. If Xia Kunlun had stepped into this realm, there would be some changes in this world. However, there are no signs at all. This means that Xia Kunlun has just broken through to the quasi-Tao realm. Everyone present was discussing fervently. 99% of the younger generation was at the quasi-Tao realm. Su Yan had already caught up with the cultivation of his peers. Moreover, the significance of breaking through at the ancient Tao field was different. He would definitely lay down a supreme Tao foundation. In that case, he had already accumulated the most important foundation in the quasi-Tao realm. Therefore, there was an 80% chance that he would succeed in comprehending Tao in the next 10 years. Outside the ancient Tao field, the doyens of the various aristocratic clans were looking at him with burning eyes. With Xia Kunlun's background, potential, and battle prowess, he was too worth roping in. It was worth it to go all out to rope in such an exceptional Ingjia. After all, once he stepped into the great Tao realm in the future, he would definitely be a famous expert in the universe. He would be an overlord of the younger generation and would have the qualifications to contend for hegemony in the world in the future. He would be conferred the title of a young paragon. Su Yan's eyes suddenly opened, and the divine might all over his body was retracted. All of a sudden, Su Yan sensed a hint of threat that came from the future. He was horrified. What was this? Right now, his cultivation had already crossed a watershed. His intuition was very sharp, and he could predict some fatal dangers in advance. Su Yan's expression kept changing. If it was really a fatal threat, then his identity must have been exposed. Let's go. Su Yen instantly made a decision. This was an unknown danger, and it made him uneasy. Just as Su Yen stood up, he felt a chill run down his spine, and even the back of his head felt cold. This was an extremely unbearable aura that enveloped him. Who is it? Chapter 424. The black shadow seemed to stand at the end of space and time, looking extremely tiny. Su Yen discovered that he couldn't move, as if he had been imprisoned. He even wanted to use the boundary-breaking talisman to break through space and escape. But Su Yen discovered that this area had been sealed away. Moreover, the entire ancient Dao field seemed to have been revived, blazing with a blazing light. This was one of the strongest treasure lands of the crepe myrtle cult. It was obvious that the crepe myrtle cult couldn't bring the ancient Dao field back, otherwise why would they have spent so much effort to seal it away? But now, someone had actually taken control of the ancient Dao field. This left Su Yen shocked. Could this be a strange and mysterious cultivator? Otherwise, who could control the ancient Dao field? Even the Divine King couldn't, right? This is big trouble. Su Yen clenched his fist. Cold sweat dripped down his back. This unknown threat caused Su Yan's heart to sink to the bottom of the valley. He felt that this person shouldn't be a powerhouse from the ancestral hall, but was definitely a powerhouse from the crepe myrtle cult. This black shadow was erratic, as if it stood in space and time, ethereal. His hair was loose, covering his entire face. Only his eyes stared at Su Yen. These purple eyes were like the eyes of the great Dao Sea, shining with a brilliant light. Under the observation of this gaze, Su Yen was exposed to the world. Whether it was the force armor or the space treasure Zixuaning gave him, they all existed in name only. Great Dao Heavenly Eye. Su Yan's pupils shrank. This pair of eyes was unfathomably deep. When they opened and closed, they shot out a rain of light from the great Dao. It was as if one could observe an entire star domain and see through everything. There were far too few powerhouses that could cultivate the great Dao Heavenly Eye. Even some young supreme beings found it difficult to cultivate it. One couldn't help but admit that Shui Guan had reached an astonishing level. He had already cultivated the great Dao Heavenly Eye ahead of time. Of course, it was the same as Su Yan's martial Dao Heavenly Eye. However, Su Yan's martial Dao Heavenly Eye was only preliminarily opened and had yet to thoroughly cultivate it. Su Yan's entire being was trapped. Under the observation of the great Dao Heavenly Eye, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't escape. He felt that he was in big trouble. Even the current dragon totem wouldn't be able to help him break out of this dangerous situation. Who are you? Su Yen stared at the black shadow. It looked like a man and a woman. It was a middle-aged man. He had already arrived in front of Su Yen. With his hands behind his back, he involuntarily exuded the dignified aura of a superior. The black-robed man sized up Su Yen. He looked very calm. After a long time, he said indifferently, "Young man, you are a rising star of the burial region. You actually managed to sneak into my sect's Dao temple. You are quite capable. You surprised me." Su Yen felt as if thunder had exploded in his heart. His pupils dilated slightly. This black-robed man knew his identity. Furthermore, he had directly named him. Just what was his background? Why was he so sure that he was from the burial region? "I don't know what you are talking about." Su Yen took a deep breath and said, "Senior, are you an expert from the crepe myrtle sect?" His heart was burning with anxiety as he paid attention to the changes in his surroundings. Su Yen was even more shocked because the experts outside the ancient dojo, including the cultivators inside the ancient dojo, had not discovered any trace of the black-robed man. In their eyes, Su Yen was still sitting cross-legged on the Dao platform. Just how strong was he to be able to hide from everyone? He estimated that this person's strength surpassed Zhu Liang. Could he be a divine king? It doesn't matter if you don't understand. The black-robed man placed his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. he smiled faintly. I haven't heard from the burial region for many years. I didn't expect your tribe to have a young seed. You are not bad, to be able to cultivate to the quasi-Dao realm here. Your fortune is not small. I don't know what you are talking about. Su Yen suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and said, What is your goal? Just tell me. You have taken the fortune here. The black-robed man paused for a moment before looking at Su Yen and said, Consider it my crepe myrtle sect helping you. Let's make a deal. You help me take something from the divine mountain range and bring it back. Then, I will let you live. This was an undisguised threat. He had the mentality of viewing Su Yen as a chess piece or an ant. Su Yen clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. What do you want? It seems like you still don't believe me. I will make a bet with you. If nothing unexpected happens, the experts from the Ancestral Hall will be here in less than 2 hours. The black-robed man's tone was indifferent. His body involuntarily emitted a majestic aura that intimidated people. It was impossible to tell whether he was a man or a woman from his appearance. He said, I have been here for a long time and have been paying attention to you. You are not simple. You should be an important figure in the Burial Realm clan. Su Yen was alarmed. Could it be that he had touched the stone's inheritance and the black-robed man had recognized his identity? Your blood is very special, the black-robed man said with interest. I really want to know whose son you are. Su Yen was silent. It was because his bloodline had exposed him. The Ancestral Hall should have found this place because of his bloodline. He really didn't expect the Ancestral Hall to have such a method. Of course, it's fine if you don't say anything. There aren't many experts from the Burial Realm clan left alive. The black-robed man sighed and said, Your potential is not weak. To be able to come into contact with the strongest inheritance here, you will have some achievements in the future. You can determine that I am from the Burial Realm clan just based on my bloodline? Su Yen asked. I didn't know at first because your bloodline wasn't strong enough. The black-robed man smiled and said, But I really didn't expect that you could touch the broken stone of the great Dao mountain and even sit on it to comprehend the Dao fruit here. I originally thought that no one could sit on the broken stone of the great Dao mountain, but I really didn't expect that someone would appear and sit on it to cultivate. I reckon that you are not only from the Burial Realm clan, but also have grasped the mother scripture of the Burial Realm clan. I really want to study this scripture. He spoke one after another, almost digging out all of Su Yan's secrets. It made him shudder. What was the background of this person? Why did he know so much about the Burial Realm clan? Moreover, the black-robed man was certain that the broken stone that even he couldn't determine was the broken stone of the great Dao mountain. This made Su Yen feel that it was unbelievable. You want to make a deal with me for the mother scripture? Su Yen asked again. He felt that this black-robed man didn't want to kill him. Moreover, he didn't grasp the complete beginning scripture. The limit was the great Dao realm. If he wanted to obtain more of the beginning scripture, he had to return to Earth. That's not it. Although the mother scripture was once glorious to the extreme, this scripture has been ruined. The environment of the universe has changed long ago, and the people of the world are no longer suitable to cultivate the mother scripture. The black-robed man had his hands behind his back. He paced around and sighed, What a pity! Of course, if it wasn't for the change in the environment of the universe, your Burial Realm clan might not have been defeated. After all, this scripture shocked the ancient and dazzled the modern ages. You being able to cultivate to this step really surprised me. The black-robed man pointed at the broken stone and said, Of course, this is related to it. It is the broken stone of the great Dao mountain. The 9 great immortal mountains are the treasures of your Burial Realm clan. That's why you were lucky enough to use the mother scripture to break through the shackles and step into the quasi-Dao realm. I once understood some things. The mother scripture that your Burial Realm clan grasps is equivalent to waste paper. It can be used to lay down your foundation, but if you want to use it to become stronger, it is absolutely impossible. Su Yen was silent. This person knew too much about the Burial Realm clan. He even knew about the Mother Scripture and the environment of the universe. This made him feel suffocated. If he wasn't an expert of the Crepe Myrtle sect, Su Yen would have suspected that this person was a traitor of the Burial Realm clan. What do you want from me? Su Yen took a deep breath and calmed down. Since things had already reached this step, there was no point in being anxious. If there was no other way, then he could only risk it all and sacrifice all his resources to try and break out. Let's make a deal. It won't be bad for you. His hair draped over his shoulders and covered his face. A pair of purple eyes emitted a demonic light. He looked at Su Yen and said, "You go to the Divine Mountain Range and help me search for the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain." Why are you so sure that I can find the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain? Su Yen looked at him and said, I don't even know who you are now. Also, what do you want the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain for? That is none of your business, the black-robed man said indifferently. You just need to help me search. I will not mistreat you. Why are you looking for me? Didn't you say that the Divine Mountain Range is about to open? Su Yen asked, with your strength, wouldn't it be easier for you to find it than me? Why did you choose me? You underestimate the Divine Mountain Range. Even if it opens, not everyone can go there. The black-robed man said calmly, too many experts died in the last universe era. After a long time, the mountain range was covered in divine blood and became a peerless ominous land that contains the killing power of the divine Tao. If the gods walk in, they will be killed by the divine mountain range. You will be killed by the divine spiritual mountain range. Those who enter will die. The black-robed man sneered and said, on the other hand, you won't encounter the strongest killing power. At most, there will be some danger, but I believe that with your strength, you can survive. He looked like he was in control of the whole situation and was controlling Su Yen. His words were neither hurried nor slow. Su Yen felt helpless in his heart and said, how can you be sure that I can find the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain? Even if I help you find it, what can you give me? I will tell you how to find it, the black-robed man said disdainfully. Do you think you are qualified to talk terms with me now? Even if I don't kill you, when the experts from the Ancestral Hall come, you won't be able to live. If I'm not wrong, the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain is very important to you. Su Yen said coldly, to find the broken stone, you need the help of the burial region. Others can't find the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain at all. Hearing this, the black-robed man's purple eyes were filled with terrifying fluctuations, like two balls of fire of the Great Tao burning, staring at Su Yen. Under the gaze of his Great Tao heavenly eye, Su Yan's body and soul were about to be destroyed, and the whole universe was about to collapse. However, Su Yen was unafraid, as if he hadn't experienced all this, and said, you are the one who needs my help. You are not afraid that I will kill you? The black-robed man said coldly. You said it yourself, the people from the Ancestral Hall are about to come. Dying in your hands now is better than dying in the hands of the experts from the Ancestral Hall. Su Yen looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water and said, since you want to make a deal with me, you should show your sincerity. Sincerity? The black-robed man looked up to the sky and laughed. I am sincerity, is this enough? The whole world darkened and all kinds of terrifying air currents gushed out. Everything seemed to collapse and be destroyed in an instant. The black-robed man's strength was too terrifying. He looked down at Su Yen and said coldly, if you don't agree, I will directly destroy your primordial spirit. I have to take a certain risk to occupy your primordial spirit, but the risk you have to take is death. Black clouds rolled between heaven and earth, and this place turned into a purgatory. The scene was very realistic. Su Yan's chest violently rose and fell. He could see the determination of this person. If he really agreed to the conditions, this person would definitely have prepared many backup plans. It was also at this moment that Su Yen faintly discovered that the array that covered the ancient Dao field was faintly twisting. The black-robed man frowned. He didn't expect the experts from the ancestral hall to come so quickly, but he didn't take it to heart. It was impossible for the ancestral hall to start a war with the Crepe Myrtle sect for a rising star of the burial region. Chapter 425. What's going on? The atmosphere in the ancient Dao field suddenly became extremely oppressive. A heavy sound came from the distance, as if a storm was approaching. Strands of energy contained a strange magical power, causing the experts to suffocate. This was a very terrifying pressure that suddenly attacked. The experts from various races who came to watch all paled. They could feel a cold, killing intent rushing towards the ancient Dao field. Was someone targeting the ancient Dao field? Not good. Meng Ying's eyes widened in anger. First of all, the ancient Dao field's location was absolutely hidden. Outsiders couldn't find it. Second, even if the location of the ancient Dao field was leaked, the various great powers wouldn't dare to fight over it. But now, there was an undisguised aura rushing towards the ancient Dao field with a murderous intent. At first, these strands of aura were very far away, but they rushed over at an extremely fast speed. It was like a sea of stars roaring as they rushed over, causing the sky shrouding great formation to completely distort. Who dares to cause trouble again? The Crepe Myrtle sect expert guarding the ancient Dao field was boiling with anger. He controlled the sky shrouding great formation, but the following situation made him unable to sit still. This was because the incoming experts had far exceeded his expectations. Rumble! The commotion was endless and shocking. Not to mention the ancient Dao field, all the experts from various races on the bipolar star were stunned by this scene. They all felt that the ancestral hall was preparing to use force against the Crepe Myrtle sect. Heavens, what's happening? Could it be that Palace Daozu wants to monopolize the Godly Soul mountain range? An expert's face paled. Do they want to seal off the entire bipolar star? Impossible. No matter how strong the ancestral hall is, they wouldn't dare to oppose all the great races in the universe unless a group of almighty experts came out from their race. A peak expert coldly replied. His eyes scanned the surroundings and said, "Something must have happened to make the ancestral hall angry. Half a year ago, this wasn't the right thing to do." The dark underworld expert's expression was quite interesting. Could it be that the experts of the burial realm had appeared on the bipolar star? Who didn't know that once someone was related to the burial regent's clan, that person's clan would be annihilated at the slightest provocation? Even a peak power would have to consider whether they had the qualifications to offend the ancestral hall, a superpower that dominated the vast universe. What does the ancestral hall want? Countless creatures trembled. This was simply the end of the universe. That was because the ancestral hall's style was too great. Even the outer realm's starry skies were suppressed. One after another, array disks curled around primal chaos emitted brilliant light. Without a doubt, this was the activation of a super great killing formation. The light was resplendent and blazing, spreading with grand divine Tao energy. It was vast and mighty, sealing the bipolar star's outer space. Boom! At the end of the horizon, an endless army rushed out. They wore shining battle armor and held killing swords in their hands. They rushed over from the distance, and the auras they released merged into one. It was as if the great waves of the cosmos were sweeping out, filling a corner of the starry sky. These were the elites of the ancestral hall. Riding strange beasts, their auras were powerful and intimidating. Their speed was also extremely fast. They rushed towards their destination as fast as they could. There were also ancestral hall experts who arrived one after another. Their bodies were emitting bone-piercing cold energy. This was a sign of anger spreading. More than half a year ago, one of the ancestral hall's top Tao rites was opened. This matter was destined to be irreconcilable. And now, a race with a powerful bloodline from the burial region had appeared. A large number of Ancestral Hall experts came out in anger. The moment Zhu Yangbo arrived, a terrifying energy rushed out, causing the clan lords of the various great races to lose their colors. Even an old antique like Zhu Yangbo came out. What was going on? It actually made the Ancestral Hall go to war, even going as far as to pay a great price to seal the bipolar star's outer space. Moreover, they were extremely swift and ferocious as they rushed towards a single direction. Along the way, there were rows of battleships and treasured ships in the sky. There were also huge war chariots rumbling as they arrived. What kind of terrifying style was this? This was the awakening of the Ancestral Hall's hidden power. Its brilliance illuminated the sky dome and shook the world. It made all the great experts lose their colors. They couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The Ancestral Hall was fully deserving of the title of the party's overlord. Not good. Meng Feng, who was negotiating with the great powers in the Ziwei Pure Land, had a great change in expression. This was because the Ancestral Hall's target seemed to be the ancient Tao Right. It was too late to stop them now. With Meng Feng's battle prowess, it was impossible for him to stop Zhu Yangbo. The bipolar star was vast, but no matter how vast its territory was, with the speed of the Ancestral Hall, they soon arrived at their destination. This uninhabited mountain forest collapsed in an instant, and the hibernating heaven-shrouding sun formation began to distort as it trembled. Roar! The ancient Tao Right's guardian roared. He thought that a great enemy had arrived, so he directly erupted with his power to stop the incoming experts. Kill! The roar exploded, shaking the entire starry sky. There were too many experts from the Ancestral Hall. The armored cavalry broke through the void, and a terrifying killing intent descended from the sky like an ocean. It crushed the heaven-shrouding sun formation, causing the ancient Tao Right's guardian to tremble. No matter how strong he was still scared in the face of such a lineup. Pooh! The ancient Tao Right's elder screamed miserably. Zhu Yangbo was extremely tyrannical. Although his qi and blood were deteriorating, his battle prowess could not be ignored. He raised his palm and slammed it down, causing the ancient Tao Right's elder to fall to the ground. This was because this was the aura of the Divine King. Zhu Yangbo was an old Divine King, and not an ordinary old god could be compared to him. Oh my God! The younger generation of various races gathered here were all scared silly. They looked up at the sky. The entire sky darkened. Countless soldiers and horses surrounded them. Huge battleships filled the sky, and one expert after another stood between heaven and earth. The leader, Zhu Yangbo, was even more terrifying. Meng Ying was trembling. What was going on? Many people were dumbfounded. Wasn't this ancient Tao Right supposed to be hidden? How did it get found directly? Even the experts from the Ancestral Hall were surprised. They didn't expect to find the ancient Tao Right's location. This was interesting. Very good. Zhu Yangbo laughed heartily. If his guess was correct, then the bloodline power of the Burial Regions clan should belong to number 5. Buzz! His eyes suddenly blazed. After all, he was a divine king. Under his gaze, all the cultivators in the ancient Tao Right felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. There was no secret to speak of. Even Sundome and King Flash didn't dare to breathe loudly. After all, this was a divine king. Even if their talents were heaven-defying, they still didn't dare to offend a divine king. With the divine king overseeing things, who would dare to resist? Meng Ying and the others didn't even dare to fart. When Zhu Yangbo's eyes looked at the ancient Tao Right, he didn't notice Tai Daniu. Because Tai Daniu was covered by the energy of the Enlightenment platform, Zhu Yangbo couldn't see through Tai Daniu's true appearance. However, when he looked at the ancient Tao Right, his expression turned serious. This peerless land of treasures was even more astonishing than he had expected. He couldn't see through it. This was serious. It's really you. When Zhu Yangbua's eyes looked at Su Yan, he looked up to the sky and laughed. It's really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Saintess Ziwei and the others were dumbfounded. What was going on? Who was Xia Kunlun? Why was the ancestral hall making such a big fuss? Zhu Yang's expression also changed. A junior had made Zhu Yangbua come personally? This Xia Kunlun wasn't simple. Perhaps his master was a great enemy of the ancestral hall. Brother Kunlun. Zhu Xing's expression was uncertain. What was going on? This was Zhu Yangbua, the ancestral hall's old ancestor that even his father had to kowtow to. He was also one of the oldest deputy hall masters. Ha 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 ha! Yin Xian began to laugh heartily. Without a doubt, Xia Kunlun had offended the ancestral hall. Now, he could kill him without any scruples. What a big fuss! Su Yan's heart was boiling with anger. This was a complete extermination. He wouldn't allow any bloodline of the burial realm to survive in the universe. A terrifying intent took root in his heart. His eyes released battle intent. Perhaps it was laughable in the eyes of a great figure. After all, this was the high and mighty ancestral hall. I don't believe that I can't kill my way out. Su Yan looked at the black-robed man and said, "If you can help me resolve this crisis, isn't it just the remnant stones of the great Dao Mountain? I'll find them all for you." "All right." The black-robed man was still calm. He didn't care about Zhu Yangbua. As long as he could obtain the remnant stones of the great Dao Mountain, he didn't care about offending the ancestral hall. Moreover, the ancestral hall wouldn't start a war with the Crepe Myrtle sect because of Su Yan. Zhu Yangbua didn't have the power to start a war with the Crepe Myrtle sect. The black-robed man didn't know that Su Yan was someone that even the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor wanted. Su Yan only wanted to leave this place. As long as the black-robed man left the ancient Dao ground, he was confident that he could kill his way out. The entire ancient Dao ground was sealed in an instant. This was the black-robed man's energy that sealed the entire ancient Dao ground. He soared into the starry sky. The androgynous black-robed man placed his hands behind his back and exuded a domineering aura. He faced the heroes of the ancestral hall and coldly said, "I'll protect this person." "You can't." Zhu Yangbua and the others' expressions darkened. He dared to protect Su Yan, who even the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor wanted? Who gave him the courage? Boom! Zhu Yangbua and the others didn't hesitate and rushed forward. They wanted to tear open a path and take Su Yan away. They were worried that the surviving experts of the burial realm would find out and kill their way here. At that time, it wouldn't be easy to take away Su Yan. From this, one could see how important Su Yan was. Zhu Yangbua didn't want any accidents to happen. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. "Capture him for me." Yin Xian pointed at Su Yan and laughed angrily. "I want to see who you are, Xia Kunlun. You're really bold to provoke the ancestral hall." Although the ancient Dao ground was no longer sealed, there were still 3 geniuses of the underworld race inside. Even Zhu Yang's expression was gloomy. There were more than a dozen young seeds of the ancestral hall here. There was no need to mention their combat strength. Taking down Xia Kunlun was no problem at all. "Protect him, let him live." Meng Ying didn't hesitate and instantly gave the order. Chapter 426. The sky-piercing murderous aura, sky-splitting roars, and the metallic sounds of killing swords being unsheathed reverberated in the world. The experts from the various races who rushed out of the purple myrtle Pure Land were stunned by this scene. The people from the ancestral hall were too decisive. Without a single word, they were ready to start a massacre, plunging the area within a radius of several 100,000 li into darkness. "Kill!" The soldiers from the ancestral hall roared and unleashed their killing swords. They emitted a dazzling light that was blinding to the eyes. Some people's souls were about to split apart. What was the ancestral hall doing? Declaring war against the Purple Myrtle sect? Did they want to intimidate the other great powers and monopolize the divine spiritual mountain range? Countless soldiers rushed towards the ancient Tao ground. The experts couldn't see the scene inside because it was blocked by the sky-covering formation. Murderous aura rippled in the world. The mountains were rumbling and shaking as they began to break apart. However, when this terrifying aura rushed towards the ancient Tao field, a figure floated out of it. In this world of destruction, he appeared very majestic, like a giant awakening from a deep slumber. The dual polar stars were filled with an oppressive aura. The black-robed man was awakening. His aura was boundless. The entire heaven and earth exploded, and the boundless killing power collapsed in unison. The entire area also turned into a pitch-black land of destruction. Could it be that the divine king of the Purple Myrtle sect is taking action? The experts who rushed over were shocked. The terrifying aura of the divine king erupted from the direction of the source. It tore apart the sky like millions of lightning bolts, suppressing the sea. It was truly powerful. This black-robed man had a head full of fluttering hair. He was tall and slender. Although he was a middle-aged man, his skin was as white as jade. His pair of purple eyes emitted a demonic light. There was no emotion on his cold face. This person looked like a man and a woman. He was like a burning black sun that forcefully stopped the attack from the ancestral hall. Sect Master. Meng Feng was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect the sect master of the Purple Myrtle sect to be guarding the ancient Tao ground. This way, the ancestral hall wouldn't be able to succeed so easily. What? He is the sect master of the Purple Myrtle sect. All the clan masters were shocked. Many people didn't know what the founder of the Crepe Myrtle sect looked like, and there were very few rumors about him in the outside world. That year, the Crepe Myrtle sect also suddenly established the founder's position. Even some of the disciples of the Crepe Myrtle sect had never seen what their leader looked like. Now, the scene of her appearing in the world stunned everyone. The leader of the Crepe Myrtle sect looked like a man, but she also looked like a woman. However, the Crepe Myrtle sect only had female disciples, so this sect leader should be a woman. Kill them all! Zhu Yangbo was furious. He didn't believe that the Crepe Myrtle sect's leader didn't know Su Yan's identity. Since the Crepe Myrtle sect wanted to protect Su Yan, it was a provocation to the entire ancestral hall. Only the ancient Tao rite remained undamaged, moreover concealed. The peak battle had already erupted outside. The Crepe Myrtle sect's leader knew that only Su Yan could help him find the broken stone of the Great Tao Mountain, so Su Yan couldn't die and couldn't be taken away by the ancestral hall. Then, the only way to protect him was to protect him. Although the Crepe Myrtle sect's leader knew that it would be difficult, he really didn't believe that the ancestral hall would start a war with the Crepe Myrtle sect for a rising star. What is Xia Kunlun's background? Everyone was dumbfounded. The Crepe Myrtle sect's leader didn't hesitate to start a war with Zhu Yangbua in order to protect him. This made them confused. Could it be that Xia Kunlun's teacher had an unusual relationship with the Crepe Myrtle sect's leader? I need to leave as soon as possible. Su Yan maintained his calm and thought. First, the ancestral hall wouldn't let him go. He reckoned that even Zhu Qing might come for him. The Crepe Myrtle sect's leader didn't know what Su Yan meant to the ancestral hall. Once Zhu Qing came for him, the Crepe Myrtle sect's leader would have no choice but to give way. Xia Kunlun, your luck doesn't seem to be very good. 3 figures with powerful auras rushed over, releasing their ferocious auras. They were all disciples of the dark underworld lineage, and had high status in the clan. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come here with Yin Xian. Although I don't know how you offended the ancestral hall, I really want to know who you are. Yin Qixing looked at Xia Kunlun and smiled coldly. I also want to know if the Crepe Myrtle sect can protect you. It's the ancestral hall that wants to kill you. Xia Kunlun, what are you going to do next? I think it's better for you to surrender. Zhu Yong walked over, His aura was so powerful that it shook the world. As the son of the Divine King, Zhu Yong's combat strength was needless to say. Just the godly spirit battle armor alone was enough. For a time, the sealed ancient Dao field was filled with killing intent. One after another, young experts with powerful auras approached Su Yan. How could this be? Zhu Xing bitterly smiled but didn't dare to say anything. After all, Zhu Yong was already prepared to attack. He was ranked third in the Ancestral Hall's younger generation and was a famous figure in the starry seas of the universe. He was one of the most important young experts of the Ancestral Hall. Not to mention, Zhu Yong had brought more than a dozen young seeds of the Ancestral Hall. Each of these people had formidable combat strength. Their overall strength was stronger than the 20 young disciples Su Yan had killed. They were all looking at Xia Kunlun with cold eyes. The onlookers were dumbfounded. They wanted to know what Xia Kunlun's background was, and why he had alarmed Zhu Yangbua. What? You want to target me? Su Yan's eyes were filled with killing intent. Should he slaughter these people before he left? If he really did so, the consequences would be severe. But Su Yan felt that the bipolar star had been sealed, and he could encounter a fatal threat at any moment. I think it's better to drag some of them down with me. Su Yan's body surged with killing intent as a cold light flashed in his eyes. You're about to die and you still dare to look at us with such an attitude? You still dare to release killing intent towards us? Yin Qixing looked up and laughed. Xia Kunlun, I'll give you a choice. Bind your own hands and feet and you might be able to live. Otherwise, I'll take action and suppress you right here. You're less than a pile of shit in my eyes. If you kneel down and beg me to bind my own hands and feet, I might consider it. Su Yan's response made the 3 young disciples of the Umbra faction furious. Just as they were about to charge forward, Zhu Yong said coldly, "Stand down. I'll suppress Xia Kunlun." "Dao brother, please wait." Saintess Ziwei walked over and frowned. "I think there's some misunderstanding here. I think we should wait for the faction master and the others to stop fighting before we solve this problem. What do you think? You've crossed the line." Zhu Yong's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. He placed his hands behind his back and exuded a shocking aura. He said coldly, "If it wasn't for the fact that it was only your sect master, I would have suppressed you as well." "You!" Saintess Ziwei's expression darkened. She looked at Zhu Yong and said, "If you insist on taking action, then I'll have to follow my master's will. You want to attack me?" Zhu Yong smiled and looked at Saintess Ziwei's curvaceous figure. He sneered, "Are you sure? Saintess Ziwei, I advise you to mind your own business. Your crepe myrtle sect shouldn't meddle in other people's business either. No one can escape from the Ancestral Hall's capture." "Then I'll have to be rude." Saintess Ziwei was the direct disciple of the Ancestral Hall's faction master after all. Her clothes fluttered and her skin rippled. She felt that as long as she could stop Zhu Yong, Yin Qixing and the others wouldn't be able to threaten Xia Kunlun's life. "Haha, thank you for saving me, junior sister." Xia Kunlun's words made Saintess Ziwei smile. "Dao brother Xia, you're someone my master wants to protect. Of course I'll stand on your side." "Bastard!" Zhu Yong was enraged. He let out a long howl and charged forward, hoping to force Holy Daughter Polestar back and suppress Xia Kunlun. "Xia Kunlun, it's too early for you to be happy." Yin Qixing and the other two's auras became stronger. After all, they were the 3 young experts of the Dark Underworld faction. They said with disdain, "You think you can stop the 3 of us? Yin Xian of my clan wants to take your head. What do you think we should do? In my eyes, you're nothing but a bunch of chickens and dogs." Su Yan pointed at them and shouted, "Come out if you want to die." Su Yan had not been idle all this while. He had been deciphering the seal in the ancient Dao ground. The power of the boundary-breaking talisman was limited. He had to find a place with a weaker space and use the boundary-breaking talisman to open a passage in order to leave safely. "How dare you!" The three experts of the dark underworld faction were furious. They shouted at the young experts of the ancestral hall, "Brothers, can you give us some time to suppress Xia Kunlun? Of course, his life is yours." Of course. The young disciples of the ancestral hall had cold expressions. They had already sealed the place from the inside out. "Xia Kunlun, even if you're the disciple of a supreme expert, you can't escape from the three of us. That goes without saying." "Humph, Xia Kunlun, you really won't cry until you see the coffin?" Yin Qixing and the other two rushed over. Under the state of the indestructible Vajra physique, their powerful strength filled the entire place. They were the three young experts at the peak of the Quasi-Dao realm, the future pillars of the dark underworld faction. The moment they swooped down on Su Yan, they erupted to the extreme. Their powerful bodies were like divine iron clanging. A powerful energy source spread out, causing the spectators to be alarmed. After all, these three were the top experts of the dark underworld faction. They had the qualifications to cultivate the Grand Tao. Once they joined forces, they were truly powerful. "I'm too lazy to kill you three, trash." Su Yan's reply was like a clap of thunder. A terrifying beam of light surged from his body. It was extremely intense and burned the void. This was a surging wave of energy that surged out from his body. It was as if a great sea was surging with energy that radiated in all directions. Su Yan's might surged to the sky. He was like a young hero walking in the world. A huge figure appeared behind him like a divine king descending to fill the world. The world also changed, shrinking into a tiny ball. Earth shrink,